Hello and welcome to Infamous, the audio podcast. This is Brandon, or Mutilus on Discord.
This is Parker, go by one who parks on Discord.
This is Jeremy, just Jeremy on the Discords.
And this is Aaron. I go by Treffenwood on Discord.
Welcome back. Hopefully everyone had a good holiday, and hopefully you enjoyed our bonus episodes we released this week. We had 2 of them come out. Quick other announcements. Parker, you're down to 2,694 episodes of probation. And then after that, we won't be to be mean to you anymore. We'll have to be nice.
I was actually going to say something specifically about that. I thought it was really telling and really awesome. I didn't mention it on the Christmas cast because I didn't get a chance to step away. But in the morning when I woke up and I came downstairs and I saw the little pile of presents, I was like, we were just like thoughtful to one another. Nobody used this as an opportunity to like make a dig or a stick or to be cruel.
What kind of deranged lunatic would turn a Christmas present into some jab at somebody?
Yeah, that would be
like,
really,
making
really
fun
terrible.
of them for like their failings.
Mm-hmm.
That like seriously sick individuals that live in St. Joe, Missouri would do that.
A coal heart with oil for blood.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I did try to find lump of coal STLs, but I could not get my printer working. So you guys did not get lumps of coal that were painted black.
Oh my god.
So I mean, you can just thank I don't know, Gremlins for that, I guess, because my printer's still not working. All right. Let's see here. Other announcements, we've got, as always, our links and our Patreon is in the show notes. If you're interested in that, come check it out. If you liked our bonus episode, we released the most important of our WTC prep episodes. There's some other ones if you just want to hear, mostly me and Aaron going back and forth about how we should prepare for WTC, and him hating it and me loving it. It's there's a lot of good content about that. So anyway, that's going to take us into our normal segments. Currently playing, I have played 0 games in the last, feels like 2 years. But I'm very excited to play my Battle Realms list that is basically just a Cabal pile with some Hydra stuff.
Why are you excited about Battle Realms?
Why am I excited?
Mm-hmm.
I really enjoyed the drafting aspect.
Okay.
My favorite part about this game is when you don't know what's going to happen and you're like trying to make decisions and things. And I feel like a lot of the meta games that we end up playing, like for example, our like WTC prep kind of devolves into I know this matchup and now we're just waiting to see what the dice tell us. And obviously it's more complicated than that because you're constantly making adjustments to your plan. And it's like that's fun, but after a while it's kind of like repetitive. Mm-hmm. And so I really like being put in situations where I have to be creative. And so, yeah, that's why I like the drafting aspect.
Okay. That's what I like about it as well. I was just wondering.
All right, Jeremy, what are you playing?
I believe it's going to be Gardens of the Galaxy with a pile of stuff with it.
I can't. Let's go. Did anybody else hear Gardens of the Galaxy?
Definitely heard Gardens of the Galaxy.
Gardens of the Galaxy.
Which is my new name for them forever.
You are playing a plant man, correct?
Yes. There will be gardens.
Right, I'm going to let it go. You know what? That's fine. It's playing Gardens of the Galaxy.
It's gardens? I'm playing
Flower
gardens.
power all the way.
Playing gardens, and yes.
Jeremy's new Discord name is Sage, and he only plays the Plant Avengers.
Fern. Plant Avengers. Guardians. Yeah, no, that feels wrong. Gardens.
Mm-hmm. Parker.
I actually tried many mutants. I didn't get all the mutants. Hellfire Club and Brotherhood were not represented, but I did try Weapon X-Men Force for the Battle Realms. I tried Weapon X-Men Force for Battle Realms, and I found out that I really do not enjoy Cyclops. I don't know what it is. I put him now on the table, I think 6 times, and for some reason, I haven't even lost every game. I just find it clunky. I don't get it yet, and maybe it's just because you're not supposed to run all the mutants with him. He's supposed to like do other cool things for characters outside of his affiliation, and that's what you should be doing. But I find running the mutants with him clunky. Now I was on purpose playing a lot of the mutants, so maybe I was trying to force a square peg in a round hole. But I literally put all of them back on my shelf, and I am going to try a Battle Realms list, and I'm just trying to... Right now I'm trying to think of a reason not to do Defender's Convocation, because that's what I've been playing, and I enjoy it very, very much. And so it'll have to be something that stops me from doing that. I'm considering going back to Modoc 2, actually, and doing a criminals thing, like a smorgasbord criminals thing, but we'll see. I really enjoy Battle Realms, though. My first Battle Realms list was... it was a lot of fun to do the actual Battle Realms, but then actually playing with Cyclops was less fun. So...
Mm-hmm. I think when it comes to Cyclops, it's really about you have to use your unaffiliated models really well. I think that actually most of the time devolves into you trying to take models that trigger his leadership as your non-affiliated models most of the time. Mm-hmm. Like, Cable's fine, but he's 5 points. Storm's okay. But yeah, so I think usually you'll end up taking like other really premium blaster models that have high tempo. But don't know.
It also makes sense to like maybe have characters attacking outside of their own activation, so you get some more power that way. Like, there's some other things to think about it. But as I was putting that together, even I was like, I'd rather do this in Defenders, because like Daredevil gets to do that in Defenders. So I'm thinking, okay, multiple attacks. Cyclops also does that, so maybe feed into that. But that didn't.
I think once that ball gets rolling, you end up with plenty of power. Mm-hmm. It's really just about getting it rolling.
Yeah. Also, you want to use models that turn power into damage too, and there aren't that many mutants that do that in X-Men anyway. So that was interesting too. Storm is an example, maybe.
Aaron, you're up.
I spent last week playing majority of unaffiliated. I think I hinted about it last cast, but Thanos as a leadership. That actually ended up going pretty damn well.
Yeah, I can tell you from experience, it is exactly as awesome as I thought it was. It is really cool. My favorite part of playing against it is that you, with that like style, you aren't penalized for losing the game, which is really weird. Like, as you are losing, you just get stronger. Like, you get a surge of power as you're losing. Sorry, not lost the game. I mean, like, as you are losing, you're actually getting better.
As opposed trades very well, because you almost want them to hurt your people, so you get more powerful.
Right. All you have to do
is Thanos anymore. You guys are like, we don't need this shit in the world.
Well, the thing I loved about it is it was this really interesting tempo play, because the whole idea is, yes, if Thanos gets one kill early, that's good. But then if you flip him over on his backside, like every time I've ever played against a regular Thanos, if I flipped him over on his backside and flipped the rest of his models on his backside, he would start to lose. He would lose very quickly. But against that one, because you're specifically all in on the supporting role of giving extra dice, and that's what you're trying to do, is make those dice count really hard, then it didn't matter that he flipped over. You lost Cosmic Portal, and you tried to Cosmic Portal me once, and Perrin caught it, which was adorable. But that didn't matter. Like, the fact that you didn't have Cosmic Portal wasn't the point of Thanos, even though that's what people usually play him for. So the fact that he's been changed to once per turn doesn't really matter for that particular list, not nearly as much as because you're specifically using him to be a constant source of extra dice, and then making sure those dice are better than other dice. After our game, all I've been doing, like with my downtime thinking about lists, is ways to combine that with not just reroll models. Like, would it work with models with blanks, like Red Skull, for example, like Red Skull 2? Would that be really awesome or be terrible? I don't know.
It's not any good. I wouldn't do it.
But
there's move on, do something different.
There's lots of models that reroll in interesting situations, or maybe just rerolling 2 dice would be enough, or 1 dice into, like, I was thinking of all different kinds of things. But
Jeremy looks like the man watching somebody just read confidential documents on Facebook, and he's like, "What are you doing?"
So I don't know if I actually went through the list last time. I'll do it real quick. The concept
you mentioned a lot of it, yeah.
Just Thanos with 9 beaters, who work really well with extra dice. My favorite foursome at 17 was Thanos, Black Panther, Nebula, and Baron Zemo, because those 3 all move long and reroll all of their dice. But then you add Mystique, Sabretooth 1, Deadpool, Logan, X-23, and Cable, and it's just a pick whatever really killy model you want to pair with this decree. And you don't have to worry about affiliation or tactics cards. Just take the 5 best tactic cards you want. Anyway, I'm not saying it's going to win LVO, but it might. But it was a lot of fun to play.
All right, can we talk about something wholesome? Like maybe
Yeah,
Disney movies or...
I have a topic I'd like to bring up.
Baby chicks.
Jeremy,
Mm.
Thanos has been nerfed. He's fine now. You don't have to worry.
Yeah, I know. Every time you say him, he fucking angel gets his wings ripped off and thrown out of space. Like, come on.
Oh, Jesus.
So hold on, Jeremy. True or false? Thanos is currently in the list you're playing right now.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, I'm just saying.
Well, he wants to win, doesn't he?
I accept your Thanos vitriol with the caveat.
Mm-hmm. It reminds me of someone saying, like, you know what's really good about having $10 million in the bank? Like, what's the follow-up? Like, having $10 million? I don't know. Like, Thanos is really good. Let me tell you why. All of it. Like all of it.
Alrighty. So let's go ahead and move into our main topic today, which is going to be Aaron's passion project.
I didn't think that was public.
Oh, sorry. So what are you calling this? Is there a title for this project, or is it the quest, or what is it? Where
I've
it's
been
action
calling it.
complete?
You can find it on Pornhub.
I do need to start my OnlyFans, yes. Opportunity missed. I've just called it my 2023 quest.
Okay. All right, so why don't you give the listeners a rundown on what you've been working on?
So I decided, so I bought into the game a little late, like I wasn't here at the inception of Marvel. So by the time I got everything bought and painted, fully complete, I was like, have I played with X model before? Like, I think I put it on the table, but I couldn't be sure. So round about this time last year, I decided that I was going to make 2023 a year where I played every single model in the game at least 5 times to kind of get a feel for how that model plays, and to play it in a list and a scenario that was appropriate for that model. Like, I wasn't just throwing it on the table, having it perform badly in a situation it was going to be bad in, and then declare the model to be trash. And then along with each model 5 times, I wanted each affiliation at least 10 times. So that was my 2023 goal. Play each affiliation 10 times, each model 5 times. And you'd think that would take a minimum of 250 games, which is true if you just went by the affiliations times 10. The models are actually harder, because trying to fit certain models into the situations that they're best suited for would oftentimes require many more than 10 plays of a certain affiliation.
Yeah, and just to clarify, you're talking about actual played in squad, not just included in roster for dead weight.
Correct. This was played on the table. So it ended up taking me 601 games is what I played in 2023, and I ended up achieving success on game number 596.
How many models was it?
It's a total of 154 models, and that includes every model released in the game up through and including Core Set 2. And then I played every affiliation, including unaffiliated, at least 10 times.
And you played each model 5 times?
Or more, yeah.
Okay, cool.
I won't get into some of my stats and thoughts, pending they may be answered by questions, but obviously I can sum up some stuff later on.
So I guess which lessons did you learn while playing through these games?
Okay, what lessons did I learn?
Yeah, do you have any takeaways that were just like instantly apparent upon your quest being undertaken?
So here.
Well, we have some listener questions that are really specifically, and one of them is very, very similar to that.
Okay, well, let's go and do the listener questions first then. I was going to just do some random off-the-cuff ones.
Okay.
But yeah, you're right. I don't want to step on anybody's questions. So let's do the listener questions, and then we'll do our questions.
So for those of you who are not part of our Discord server, we put out the feelers, if you will, our noodly appendages, and we asked if they could submit some questions for us and Aaron specifically about his awesome quest in 2023, and we got a lot of them. And I'm going to read the questions now. Aaron, would you like to know who asked them as I do it, or do you want to try to guess who they are? Do you want to try to give them a rating? I'm just going to find out.
No, we can just, you can tell me. You can give this some credit.
Okay, so I'm going to give all the people credit. FYI, if you don't hear all of your questions, is because when you get questions with this many, I had to curtail them and take out copies and things like that. So if you don't get every single one of your questions
were bad. That's why.
Because somebody, or they were very rude, Kenny. So I didn't ask those questions.
Kenny would never be rude to somebody's face. He'd wrap something up and give it to him to take home.
He'd never put his
and open in front of his family and ruin his entire social dynamic.
Yeah. So I did edit the questions specifically for the sake of brevity, or they were copies of other questions. But here we go. We're actually going to start with King Duncan. King Duncan asks, what was the most useless character you encountered? By what that they mean, like, it literally wasn't able to do much on the board.
So this was one of my more interesting takeaways, because at the beginning, I thought that there was, again, when you can splash every character in Marvel, the cream rises to the top, and you just don't see a lot of characters get played. So there's a lot of groupthink out there of why would you ever take like any 4 but Beta Ray Bill, right? Because if there's a 4 on your list, it needs to be Beta. So I started tracking all the characters that I thought were trash. And by that I mean did not have a home in any list. Yeah. You would be better served lighting them on fire than ever keeping them in your collection.
So, like, if this model came with Beta Ray Bill, you should buy the box, take Beta Ray Bills and components out, throw the rest of the box away.
And before the errata update, there were more characters on this list. But at the end of 2023, in my estimation, there are only 7 characters out of 154 that I think are worthy of burning.
Nice.
We'll go into what 7 of those are later if there's not a specific question about them. But to answer his specific question, what one character, I am going to have to say Darkstar.
Okay, that is awesome, because I want you to know, I edited this question slightly for brevity. The first part of the question was, besides what we all know to be Darkstar, what was the most useless character?
All right, well, we're going to have to answer the question.
So besides Darkstar, I love this. King Duncan, you actually nailed his first answer. That's awesome. Little clap for that.
Do you not know who King Duncan is?
That's awesome. Go ahead. What was the most useless character besides Darkstar?
Then we're going to have to go Captain America, Steve Rogers, Captain America. 4-threat shield version.
Okay.
I do not think has... Now, granted, I played him before Iron Man 2 came out. I still don't think that changes what I want in that affiliation. And I guarantee he's not going to see Splash outside of affiliation.
Yeah, that's probably fair. So, that's probably one of the models I've seen the least amount of times.
When I was making my estimations here, like, there are a lot of quote-unquote subpar characters, but they still had a home in that affiliation, if that kind of makes sense. I'll throw out Ursa Major as an example. You're never going to splash Ursa, but I actually don't think he's bad inside of Winter Guard. I think he is a totally fine Winter Guard model that'll make your 10. Now, he could get squeezed out pretty easily if Winter Guard gets expanded, but the 4-threat version of Steve Rogers in S.H.I.E.L.D. doesn't see play even in S.H.I.E.L.D., and so that makes him bad, in my opinion.
It also makes sense because, like, Ursa Major's kit works. Like, it may not be something that's super necessary or needed, but it does work. I feel like Steve Rogers doesn't actually get to use much of his kit because of the way it's constructed.
It is a little anti-synergistic, yeah.
Okay.
All right.
What's next?
Next one, I got a little collection coming from Kenny. He's going to ask you this question. This question was echoed many, many, many times. What was the model that surprised you the most positively, and why did it surprise you?
Ooh, okay. This one's going to require probably an edited short amount of time for me to think about.
Okay.
The one that comes to mind first.
Well, I have to think of what actually surprised me as opposed to just what was super good.
I can think of one that I remember you telling me about.
Give me 10 seconds, and then I'll let you tell me what you think that one was. Okay, I have my answer. What do you think it is?
Drax.
Okay.
Would be my guess.
I went with the Blob, but we can talk about both of them.
Well, you should have had a high opinion of the Blob going in.
That's funny because
failing on you.
Okay.
They're kind of similar characters in what they do, just kind of,
sure.
kind of signpost characters.
Yeah.
Yeah, Drax was actually on my shit list. Like, I played him in one game, and he immediately went on it. And then after playing him in several more games, I took him off of the bad list. Because Drax absolutely has a home in Guardians to do something a lot of the other Guardians can't do. Just pick up a fucking objective and not get one shot off the board. I still have serious issues with Drax's play. That being I just flip with power and can do nothing with it. Or can do nothing relative to other characters that flip with power.
Yeah, he definitely is not massively improved by having a lot of power. But you could also argue that means it's good because he's not power like limited. But yeah, it's clearly not well proportioned.
Right. So he's not a great character, but he absolutely provides that niche role in Guardians. And I think he absolutely has a role in a lot of Guardians rosters. And then the Blob is much maligned. And you're right, he shouldn't be. Just like Ursa, he has some serious weaknesses, that being his stubby legs. But when you can when you can double move a model to the center prior to I-Hulk going and just be like, what are you going to do, big boy?
Mm-hmm.
And the answer is like, I can't attack you because then you push me? What? Let me see that card?
Yeah.
Right? And yeah. Those are always super good moments. And then your ceiling with Blob play can be like off the charts with his Thunderous Splash and push and just completely rearranging the board. Which I was able to do at WTC quite a few times. So, Blob, despite knowing he has a good kit, still kind of surprised me with how good that kit can be.
Cool. I've actually got a question for you.
Mm-hmm.
This one comes from Connor. What do you call a line of men waiting for a haircut? A barbecue.
Nope.
Thanks, Connor.
My favorite part of that question is that Jeremy has been very much, listening in, and then as soon as the kind of question rolled out of your mouth,
get the head
he
rotate.
stopped, and it's just like, ugh.
Yeah, our listeners don't get the glare that he gives his,
it's so
his
good.
webcam every time. Every time.
I'm just glad it does it for everybody.
All right, Aaron, we got another question. This is another one that got mirrored a lot. I think this one showed up like half a dozen times, but we're going to use Kenny's version. What model let you down the hardest and why? Like you had expectations that were really high and it really let you down.
So this is going to be my second most played model. It's Iron Man 1. I
Oof.
fucking hate that model.
I think you hate Rolling Wilds, is what you mean.
Sure. So I said it was my second most played model. How many times do you think I played Iron Man 1 this year?
Ooh, counting WTC stuff?
Throughout the entire year. Again, 601 total games.
Conservative guess? 35. I think it's higher.
Parker or Jeremy?
I'm going to guess 80.
150.
Jesus Christ. Jeremy loves ruining guessing games.
The correct answer is 94.
Ooh, I got close.
Which is a lot of times to put a model on a table, right? 94 times to put Iron Man on the table. And God almighty, I don't know how many times I would spend usually the 2 power, because it wasn't under Steve 1, to pump the 6 dice and just roll fucking nothing. Or pick up an extract and then not be able to do that turn 2. Roll 4 dice, get nothing. His ability, it's the same problem Bill has if he plays Eyes, right? Bill goes, plays Eyes, grabs a token, and can't do shit turn 2. Iron Man, not under Steve 1, has the same problem. Granted, if all you want is a 3 threat to be relatively tanky and sit on a point with an extract, he does a great job there. But anytime I wanted him to do anything offensively, my God, this man who I played against so many times and watched him just own my ass, right? Like, oh, I'm gonna spike for 4 damage on my first roll and then have power for the entire game.
Yeah.
I rarely got that Iron Man. Mine was usually the other version. And I fucking hated it.
That's definitely one of those models that always seems better on your opponent's side of the board. The number of attacks I usually put into him to get him dead is just staggering. And then when I play him, it's like, nope, he got 3-shotted straight off the board.
Yeah, how much else do I have? 5. Huh, okay. Now granted, his defensive capabilities were fine. It was just his play style and his ability to do stuff was really letting me down for the entire year.
I have another listener question. This one is from Brandon Morris. How many characters ended up on your unplayable trash list?
Ooh, okay. Well, we already answered that. That was 7.
Yep. He sent it to me, so I had to read it.
Yeah. Do we have any other questions about bad characters, or should we just name the 7 now?
No, I did a pretty good job of
curating.
Yeah, because all the other ones now, all the other like good, positive negatives are really about affiliations.
Okay. Would you guys like
Go
to
ahead and read
guess, or should I just read them?
Dark Star.
Dark Star is one. There are
Got
4
it.
3
Fucking
threats
so good at this.
and 3 4 threats. I've already given you one of each.
One
of these people are going to hate me about, but yes. Sin is correct.
How many 4s?
3.
Is Crossbones one of them?
Crossbones, ding.
Oof, the partners in crime.
I actually love Crossbones too. Crossbones 1, not so much.
I want to go for the trifecta of Hydra and say Viper, but I'm pretty sure you didn't put Viper on there.
I did not put. Viper has a specific. She has a role. She's not bad when you want her.
Oh, Steve too. Obviously, we talked about that.
Mm-hmm. We have 1 3 and 2 4s left.
Zemo 2?
No, I didn't put any of the new core on there because they were so new, and I'm not sure he is like trash worthy.
Oh, should we do this when you're finished grading things then?
No.
Oh, okay.
They're graded. I didn't grade any of the core 2. I didn't grade any of the core 2 as
Gotcha.
trash. Let's put it that
Gotcha.
way.
On their own merits, not because you didn't want to.
Could it be Taskmaster?
It is definitely not Taskmaster.
No,
Okay.
Taskmaster's legit.
Bucky.
Bucky 1?
Not Bucky 1.
Ooh,
No, it's not.
you still like Bucky 1 then? Okay.
I need to test him post errata, but I do still like Bucky 1.
I think he's borderline unplayable at this point,
Oof.
unless he's affiliated. Affiliated's big. Rogue Agent helps, but a lot of the time he's in factions that need him to be there anyway.
Is it Zola? Zola does have a
It
purpose.
is not Zola.
Hmm.
The last time I played this 3 threat, I think I played against it when Jeremy played it. I would tell you the affiliation that would immediately give it away.
Oh, Sentinel Mark IV.
That's not a 3 threat. Of
Yeah.
course.
That's my 4-point guess.
It is not. No, of course, Mark IV is required to play Sentinels.
No, like for your trash list.
I know, but no, the Mark IV has a place in Sentinels. Okay,
Oh, okay.
here's my 3 threat
Go for
clue. Mystic defense is 3 higher than their physical defense.
Mysterio? No, it's not Mysterio. 3 higher. Super Giant?
Yes, super giant.
Wow, I totally disagree with that.
Oh,
Mm.
I was actually looked at Supergiant and I was like, could it be Supergiant? She actually has like
Super Giant with MODOK 2 is amazing.
Okay, I need you to prove it to me then. I will take her off the list when you prove it to me.
Who did I prove that to like 4 games in a row? They were like ready to fucking blow their brains out. They're so funny. Logan comes in like, I'm just going to kill this guy. You're like, nope, that's never going to happen.
Well, yes, Supergiant has one very defined role. It's just horseshit and very easily dealt with. If your opponent is, I want to say competent, but I don't want to insult your opponent. Granted, MODOK 2, puts a whole new spin on, all of that. But okay, and then we have 2 4s to go.
2 4s.
One of them is an Avenger, and one of them is in Cabal. I believe the Avenger is one of your most hated models, Mr. B. Randon.
There's no way you put Voodoo on that list.
No, not MCP hated, just like MCU hated.
Squirrel Girl?
Yes.
I disagree with that take, but
I think most people are going to disagree with that take.
Yeah.
I think if you are playing Avengers, you should be playing almost any of your other 4s over Squirrel Girl, and there's no reason to take her out of affiliation.
That's the
Nor
big
does she have
problem. She's only in Avengers.
She's
Is
an
she even
A-Force.
in A-Force?
She is.
Okay.
she's an A-Force.
So you talk about she gets rerolls, blah, blah, blah. Her power economy is so much worse than all of the other people will compare her. All the other models, people will compare her to, like Logan, right? Who also gets reroll too. She gets it without the restraint of having allies nearby, or not nearby in this case. But her power economy is shit. So you could argue for A-Force. I just don't really think she has a compelling reason to be either in A-Force or Avengers, and definitely not splashed. So I accept the internet's vitriol and response.
I value her like super hex also a lot. Like the fact that you can like throw a token on somebody and potentially shut them down is big. But yeah.
Okay, that leaves one more Cabal 4 threat.
Ultron 1?
Nope.
I think Ultron 1's actually not too bad.
I agree. I was just trying to think of a Cabal 4
It's. I can only imagine it's not an actual Cabal person. It's
Is it
somebody
Omega
that's just
Red?
randomly affiliated.
They are Cabal only.
Oh.
Yeah. Really? Who
Mr.
am I
Sinister.
blanking on?
Parker is correct.
Yeah.
Sinister. I really tried to make him work with a bunch of different affiliations, whether it was Cabal or Weapon X
I don't
or
think he was
X-Men.
bad in any of those games.
He was just very non-compelling.
I think he was arguably the best model on the field when I played against you with him.
Okay.
Like he made more of an impact than anyone else you had. Now, if you're just saying that he's not fun to play with, I can understand that, but I think he's actually pretty cool.
I have a hard time. So again, does he have a role out of affiliation? Probably not. Would you play him in affiliation? And the answer is, my answer after having played him and every other Cabal 4 threat was I would much rather have a different 4 threat than him in almost every situation.
I don't know that I'd ever play him in Cabal. I do think there's a lot of examples of times I would take him out of Cabal.
Like I said, I tried him Weapon X and X-Men.
Did you try it in like Hellfire Club? Because
I did not try him in Hellfire. No.
You have a potential fix for his power shortage, and you have even more tankiness, and you want to play the models that you can play Force Extraction on turn 1 anyway.
So my question there is, are we just polishing a turd, or is it actually better than other 4 threats?
I think he actually works pretty well in Hellfire Club if you're playing the tanky strategy, because he's got like super damage reduction and can root people, and mind control is good. Like, I think he actually works well in Hellfire Club.
Okay. Anyway, that was my 7 model list with some pushback, which I encourage and accept. Sinister, Squirrel Girl, Steve Rogers, Captain America, Darkstar, Supergiant, Sin, and Crossbones. Now, of note, none of those 7 have been errated by AMG.
Well, these are for 2023 bad characters after the errata, right?
Yes. What I'm saying is there's still an opportunity. There's an opportunity for AMG to fix these characters down the road. They have not already looked at them, decided they're good enough, and moved on.
Yeah, that's okay. So we agree then. I was just going to say that's like it was unfair to say that because they've already updated 30 something characters.
Yeah.
So yeah, that makes sense. All right, Parker, what's next?
Do you know your overall record?
I do.
What was the overall record? I'm just curious.
437 wins, 164 losses.
300 of those wins were against me.
Only 60.
Oh, sorry.
Jesus.
Jeremy, do you want to know the loss column, or do we want to just move on?
Oh, I don't care. I actually know that I played him a lot more than most people, so.
My number 1 opponent throughout the year, you're correct.
It's because you guys live so close together.
Oh, yeah.
That's why.
Yeah.
Not that you both don't drive like basically an hour away to come to
Yeah.
So, of all of our locals, who did I have the lowest win rate against? Who do you think?
Parker.
It was not Parker.
Oof. I was hoping for small sample size.
Yeah, it might, yeah.
We only played 10 times, but no. I was shocked. Yeah, I'm going to say shocked when I did the math and, tallied them all up.
So this is not cast members, this is just people in our meta?
Mm-hmm.
So I made a list of the 14 locals that I played the most often.
Okay. Zach.
Nope.
I don't know then.
Okay.
When you say shocked, it makes me really second guess all my ideas.
The answer is Perrin.
Huh.
29 wins and 26 losses. 52.7% win rate.
Little did you know your greatest enemy sleeps 30 feet from you.
Yeah, no shit. And that's not because I was testing shit and taking it easy on him.
Oh, we know you want to destroy him at any cost.
Obviously, yeah. Pain makes you harder.
They are what? What's the Yoda line? They are what we cannot be, or whatever. Such is the fate of all masters. We are what they grow beyond. That's the line. Yeah. Kenny, I had one more question for you. Top 3 games that stick out to you. Do you have a top 3 games? Positive or negative? He said he doesn't care. Just
the negative ones I flush ASAP. I've had plenty of games where I just get cleared and I delete those from my memory banks. There have been a lot of really good games, and by good games, I love a game that comes down to dice on the final turn. I love those games, win or lose. I love it when you're rolling. Okay, my 5 against your 3. I need 3 to kill you. If I do, I win. If I don't, I lose.
It's like come down. It's so tight. It's come down to the final roll. Not that a single die roll decides the game. It's just like we played to a standstill, basically.
Correct. We have both gone back and forth all game to where decisions on turn 6 matter. It's not I double move away and I can handshake now.
Mm-hmm.
Right? As much as I have done that many times, my favorite games, win or lose, are the games that come down to dice on turn 6 or turn 5, whatever the case may be. But I don't have a specific recollection of like an individual game with a person, even though that has happened like tens or maybe hundreds of times this year. The only games that stick out in my mind are some of the con ones, like NashCon. You know, playing the NashCon final and the game the previous day against Sooner. Some of the WTC games. But those are just memorable because they were, big events. Not that they were any necessarily better than some of the close games I played locally. So I have to say, sorry, Kenny, I don't have 3 specific ones.
That's okay.
You were all just trash beneath his feet.
I can recall 3 specific times that you and me played a game of Avengers versus Web Warriors, and it came down to a die roll, and then I basically threw my models into the wall. I remember one specifically when you were trying Electra, and you're like, Brandon, I don't know why you're complaining. Even though you've had bad dice all game, you have like a 90% chance to win. And then I've rolled 0 damage on 5 attacks against Electra, and you're like, okay, I take it back. Now you have like a 3% chance.
Well, if you'd stop trying to prove me wrong all the time, you'd win more games.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I have some questions related to the surprised or let down, and because these came in a lot of different forms. A lot of people asked this version of the question, but Renberg 2, I think, kind of boiled it down to the most obvious. Was there any models that you felt were underrated by the community that really stuck out to you as underrated? And conversely, were there any models that were overrated by the community that you felt like didn't perform? I know you already kind of talked about Iron Man, but is there any others that really stuck out to you by the community kind of agrees they're great, and you thought, I don't see it?
I'm just going to go down my list of models and call out ones that I'll highlight. So one I'll highlight that's underplayed is Wong. There are a lot of people who love Wong and people who hate Wong, and I don't get the haters. Wong is fucking amazing. He's not in every scenario kind of piece, but man, he turns some lists on, and there's nothing more demoralizing than when you do damage in your list and Wong is like, nope, heal him, interact with the riot, heal this other guy. Your turn. So many times in a scenario list, you want to be going as late as possible with your pertinent activations. And Wong is basically a free pass that lets you heal 4.
I healed 8 with Wong.
Yeah. In the right circumstance, Wong is super amazing. And I think people should play him more. He's also great at doing what a 2-threat should do, which is sit on your back D and score points. Now, the weakness there is obviously you've got your Wong on the back point that can be killed pretty easily. So I'm not saying he's amazing, but I think he is underloved by the community. I think more people need to be splashing Miles. Miles is a fucking amazing character. I think people are starting to play him out of affiliation, and some people have been for a while. But by and large, I think more people should be.
Do you think more people are playing him out of affiliation now than before?
No. I see people...
I think it's the same people.
Yes. I don't think his play rate out of affiliation has gone up in the past year. It's always been consistent, but it's been consistently low.
Yes.
Like, you'll see him played in various places, whether it's Guardians or Hellfire. He'll be just a random splash, and people kind of, squint and be like, huh, okay. I really think more people should be playing him.
With the amount of games I play Web Warriors, the number of times he fails me is just staggering in comparison. So, I do think he has really high potential, but I think his average is actually pretty close to his value.
Quentin's is 100%. His will 100% kick you off a point. 100% of the time.
I'm going to say that Ulick is overplayed. I think when he came out, people were like, criminals, Ulick, Juggernaut, Rhino, Beefy Boys, never lose. And while that has some merit, he is far too random to be of specific use when you need him for a 5-threat. Right? 5-threat with no dice mods is just scary ouch. Now, he is one of the more fun models you can put on the table and play. That dude is awesome and fun. But I still think he was over-touted as a competitive choice in a lot of rosters.
I agree with that. I was one of the doubters, so...
I never
I was
found
supposed to be a
myself
doubter,
getting.
and then you.
I never saw myself getting value out of him like I should. Like he always did a thing or two, but at the end of the day, like it was this, half of the time he doesn't roll enough damage to get the power he needs to do his things. The other half of the time, he staggers and kills things, and it's like, oh, okay, interesting. But for 5 threat anymore, man, there's some good 5 threats out there.
Yeah. You're really paying for the tempo and the survivability more than you're paying for the damage. Like his damage output is good; it's above average for sure, but it's not like impressive. Technically speaking, he does the exact same damage as Rhino.
I played against him. I played on the table. I've only seen him twice. First time was Aaron played him into me, and he just ran a full train down my whole list. Like he by himself killed all of my models. I don't think any of his other models did damage. I don't remember any of them other doing damage. And then I was like, okay, this guy's got to be great. So I put him down, and he spent 4 turns of attacks and throws into a single domino and never flipped on the backside. And I was like, okay, so that's who this guy is. And I will probably never play him again because I was like, I will never enjoy this for that exact reason.
It's amazing to me the mental bias people have towards some models due to past experiences. Like it's absolutely insane to me because they can't look at a model and judge it based on the raw math. And they're like, no, he does a lot of damage. I'm like, no, he doesn't. It's read the card. It says 6 dice. That's what his damage is. He doesn't have mods. He doesn't have anything else. He throws a size 4 with power. He attacks at range 2 with power. And then he has 2 6 dice attacks. That's it. His spender is almost garbage. If you are on such a pain train that it's valuable, sure, but you're never going to plan for it. And then it's you look at Rhino, it's yep, turns out we invest the same amount of power. We get the exact same thing, 12 attack dice over 2 attacks, and a size 4 throw. Except it turns out doing a 7 die attack and a 5 die attack is actually better than a 6 die and a 6 die.
Yep. All right, thank you.
One. Oh, should I keep going? Or are we done?
Oh, no, you go ahead. I didn't know we hadn't exhausted it yet. Go.
No. Overhyped is going to be Red Guardian. I don't see him overplayed, but I see him overhyped by other content creators. I just think he is too power starved for what he actually wants to do, and too squishy at the same time. And by power starved, I mean trying to play Comrade's Keeper along with having the 2 power to count blanks is a lot of power. And if you're playing it early turn 2, you don't have that power, which means you probably just die. And then he flips, and he has some good displacement, but I would almost always rather just take Luke Cage other than Red Guardian. Comments on that pick?
I agree with you. I've played him precisely, and I was very excited to play him, and I found that I was playing him in Steve Avengers, and I felt like he didn't have enough power to do the things I wanted to do with him, and he just died.
Now that Malekith is basically out of the meta, I agree. Now Luke Cage basically does everything that you need to do. Malekith was really the one where he could punish you.
Yeah, I think if your sole goal is to play the bodyguard type card, obviously Luke is better at playing it. The thing I like about Red Guardian, which I assume is the same as the other people that are voting for him, is that he adds the board manipulation that Luke doesn't in exchange for the survivability.
Yep. Again, he wasn't a trash model, just I think overhyped. Underhyped is going to be Scent Prime. God almighty, I'm looking forward to putting that model into just a shit ton of lists next year, because, yes, please. I'm not going to sell too many people on him because I don't want anyone else to play him.
Mm-hmm.
I'm waiting for patient. I actually think he's a model that I'm missing in Cyclops. I think I will love him in Cyclops. It's a model I really want to try with it. But again, one of the things about him is he washes anybody who wants to wash power through dice. He's just a giant washer. He's awesome. Go ahead.
Underplayed model, Sabretooth 1. In almost any list. Because he asks a very, very hard question of, what are you going to do with me? I dare you to attack me. Whether it is in the Thanos list that gets a death decree, 7 dice attack with Pierce on your turn. It's an interesting question to ask. Do I dare attack this person knowing I've got that coming back at me? Or in a Red Skull list where he's counting skulls as crits on your turn. There's just a lot of interesting questions that Sabretooth 1 asks that you don't want to answer. So if I'm your opponent, I want to shove them down your throat and see what you want to do with it. Yeah, seriously underplayed model. And let me pick one more. I'm gonna go Rogue as underplayed. Almost everyone who plays her over a 4 to 5 game span, I think, ends up loving her. But for whatever reason, she always gets cut when people are making their final rosters. And not always. Like, I'm sure there are some people playing Rogue. But she often, how about that? Often gets cut. And you don't see her in, obviously, a lot of X-Men lists when I don't understand. Like, she answers so many things, or can answer it, with relative consistency.
Definitely see her in Brotherhood more often. It's probably just because people just in their heads go, well, she's competing with Logan, even though she's really not.
No, she's like a straight up coffin nail. Like, you cannot do anything to her. Like, if you just, all it takes is one good bodyguard, something to deal with the one thing that was going to whack her in one, and she'll just live forever. She lives forever and throws your shit, steals your power. Like, she's an unbelievably good model. I'm so glad people don't use her, because I fucking hate her.
I've got one more. Ant-Man, underplayed.
We've said that a bunch.
Sure, but we still haven't convinced people to play Iron Man or Ant-Man. So, whatever you're doing in 2024, if you have a resolution, it should be to put Ant-Man on the table in a bunch of different affiliations like 15 times. And I guarantee you won't regret it. Whether it's...
Even if it's just because he's fun to play with. Like, he is so fun to play with.
Yep, completely concur. A fun model that's also good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay,
You know what I might actually do after we're done with the Battle Realm stuff? I might throw together a funsies Avenger list where it's like not cookie cutter at all. And you're like, I'm just going to play all the Avengers nobody plays and just show you that they're actually good models.
With Thanos.
Thanos and Cosmic Ghost Rider, the Avengers. All right. I have a question. This one comes from Brandon Morris again. Have you heard about the sauna that serves food? Their specialty is steamed mussels. No, should Parker just get it?
No, I was watching Jeremy's reaction. It was not funny, but Jerry's reaction was funny because it was the pain that washes over his face.
It looks like somebody's ripping his toenails out with pliers.
All right, I'm gonna go straight into Bad Ryan's question. It's very similar, and I don't know if I guess you didn't hit this at all. So I think these are two fair new questions. It's also on the stance of underrated versus overrated, but this time rather than models, were there any leaders / affiliations that you think are really valued? But now that you've gotten to see all of them and play all of them, is there any leaders affiliations you feel are underrated, or any leaders affiliations you think are overrated?
Web Warriors are underrated. Because they are not a consensus number one by everyone listening to this cast right now. And that's wrong.
Hey, I've been trying to convince people one force Aaron to play them at a time.
Yeah. I actually don't think any specific leaders or affiliations are under or overrated by the community writ large. I think the community has a good hack on what is good and what isn't.
Okay.
As much as I would like to disagree with some stuff.
Yeah. Bad Ryan does have another question that I really liked, which is, what do you think is the most degenerate thing you can do in MCP? What is the thing that is the most degenerate, do you think, after having tried them all?
I think there's probably a tie between either just going super tall, like your Thanos, Star-Lord, Cosmic Ghost Rider, is pretty fucking degenerate if it works. Or going super wide with either Inhumans, Webs, or Wakanda, and just stealing all the extracts, going up 4-1, and playing keep away, and just scoring the game out on turn 3.
Mm-hmm.
Either of those two strategies. So the meta has successfully derived the degenerateness. Yeah, I'm not plowing new ground trying to create degenerate shit. That's what everyone's doing. But that would be my answer.
Also, I think if there was anything more degenerate, people would be playing it. Like, it's really what it is. The only thing I think we've ever seen not get played that was hyper degenerate was Thanos for about a year. Because there was about a year when he didn't exist, and then he came back in Guardians pretty hard. But there was that time between the mission update and when Guardians became prevalent again that Thanos wasn't really getting played. And that was probably the only time people were actively not playing degenerate garbage.
You were allowed to go in the water.
Yeah.
You're like, there's no big sharks in here.
I have a question.
And it was okay because Malekith was running around screwing everything up in that time period. Go ahead, Parker.
So Ryan's last question was, what leader or affiliation do you think will win LVO? I'm going to modify the question for my own purposes. I'm just curious. Do you think having 600 games actually lets you make predictions a little bit more clearly? If so, do you think you could predict LVO? Who do you think will win it?
I'm going to give this an honest answer and not a flippant one. I don't think that gives me any more of a heads up than anyone else, right? Realizing that, 300 of those games were played in the first 6 months of the year, so is it particularly relevant to today's meta? Maybe not.
Right.
I still think there are probably 8 different affiliations that could likely win LVO. I think if you don't say Guardians, you're wrong. From a betting standpoint, I think Guardians are 100% the odds-on winner to win LVO. It doesn't mean that there aren't 7 other affiliations that could do it.
Who? No, I just had an idea. We should draft affiliations for winner of LVO.
Only if I get to go first. That's how strong I feel about that.
Okay. We can do that. That'll be a later topic. We'll do that later.
Yeah.
All right. Speaking of affiliations, DV6 asks, after playing through them all, which, besides Sentinels and Weapon X, specifically he's carving those out, do you think needs some love or help?
Dark Dimension, A-Force, Black Order. He said not Sentinels or Weapon X?
Yes.
Okay, so...
How does Black Order need help? They have Thanos and CGR. How do they need...
because they need more than one viable list, in my opinion. Like, if I want to play an affiliation and not feel like I'm being degenerate, I think you should have that option inside that affiliation.
No, I can agree with that. That's fair. They're one-dimensional. I'll agree with that.
So up until I did the unaffiliated Thanos, all of my Black Order play this year was with Corvus. Because I didn't want to start running Thanos Proxima Corvus, into the shop. I just didn't want to do that. So I went wide Black Order with Corvus, and it's just not very good.
Yeah, I don't think anybody would argue that it was. I think the whole point of that leadership was to allow people the second pitch that isn't just degenerate, if you just want to play them for fun.
Sure, it's just also not good. Like, I would prefer to have a second pitch that is both fun and quasi-competitive, and it is not.
Yeah, but I think it's also okay to make things that are for fun and that aren't necessarily super competitive.
Sure, like you want to throw a 4th leader into Black Order like Claw and, give him a for funsies leadership, that's great. But if it's the second one, I'd rather it be something better, but that's fine. Okay, so Dark Dimension, A-Force, Black Order, Asgard, and Winter Guard.
Well, Asgard is getting more stuff very soon.
They are, and they really need... So, the one thing that most of those affiliations have in common is a high threat leader. All, knock on wood, all high threat leader affiliations have an intrinsic problem, which is the flexibility in list building. Like, She-Hulk can be great in the right circumstance. She-Hulk led A-Force can be horrible in other circumstances. I think Curtis talked about this on one of his casts, where he went to Emma as the side splash. And then he just ended up playing Emma so much more than She-Hulk, so he ended up turning the entire roster into just a Hellfire Club roster and ditching the A-Force portion completely, which is how that list evolved competitively. And that tells me there's a problem, right? Mm-hmm. So same thing with Dark Dimension. Asgard with the Thor. Winter Guard just doesn't have enough models. Sentinels has that 5 threat leader. What do you do when you need to play wide? That's their problem, yeah. Well, that's one of their problems. I'm not saying that She-Hulk isn't an average or fair 6 threat, especially a leadership baller. Like Sent Prime's great, but when you have these high cost leaders, it really makes your list building in that affiliation hard. And some of them are just, the other ones are super skinny on what they're able to provide, like Sentinels or Asgard with their availability of good 3 threats, no 2 threats, etc.
That was actually, you answered his follow-up question, which is, what do you think would fix those? Is it characters? Is it releases? Is it revisions or tactics cards? And for you, it's just They need other options to have a leadership to play the cards and to play the affiliation.
I think every affiliation needs 8 members and a leader that is 4th or below.
I think honestly every affiliation should really have 2 leaders when you think about it.
Well, I agree. I'm just saying in order to...
Yeah, like to just if you were just making a checklist of what makes a well-rounded faction, like 8 or more affiliated, probably 2 leaders, one of which is at least below 5 points.
Yep. So that's what all of the affiliations that quote unquote need something. That's what they need. That's what they're all missing.
Although there are stuff like let's see, Sentinels just are in desperate need for anything that costs less than 4 points.
Right, and that's the
like
8 models. I'm assuming the 8 models are not all going to be 6 red models, right? There needs to be 8 models.
Have you seen Spider Foes?
A decent mix.
It was a year before they got a 3-pointer.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's 100% fair. There's a reason why some affiliations feel so strong when you're building with them. It's just flexibility to start before they have any great models. It's just, do they have flexibility at the points? So Chris asked, did you, over the course of your 600 games, experience any paradigm shifts in how you view core game strategy? You felt like you were learning things about strategy as you went that you started to apply?
That's a very interesting question, Chris. I'm going to say no. And that's only because, I mean, I had a good foundation for MCP prior to the year. So it's not like I started off the year not knowing anything about MCP. Obviously, I would say I got better throughout the year, but knowing different play patterns and knowing when to attack versus when to walk versus when to use a superpower, all of that things, I mean, all of those are just skills that you hone with repetition. So I wouldn't have called, getting better, quote unquote, a paradigm shift.
Can I ask a modified version of this question?
Mm-hmm.
Did specifically playing all of the different affiliations give you insight into their different play styles help you? Like, obviously, many of the different affiliations have noticeable different strategies. So, like, Brotherhood can be fairly bricky at times, and then, versus doing something like X-Men can, be very different. And so, like, do you think that forced you to learn new play styles you weren't already employing?
I'll say, yeah, I will agree with that. You mentioned Brotherhood. When you've played Magneto with Magnetic Refraction and Kingpin, Juggernaut, Rogue together, and you just realize that you just shoved them down Gamma and they just never fucking die. Yeah, that's pretty fucking baller. So when your opponent shows up with that in their roster, you're like, okay, I need to find something that can deal with this death ball of my normal, I'm just going to, throw 4 dice guns into them is not going to work. Like, I need to bring a model that then throws Magneto away. Or I need to go tall with Prio, or something to that effect. So playing different affiliations, specifically that one example of Brotherhood, yes, has led me to both understand how to play that play style and recognize it when I play against it. And again, use Brotherhood as an example, but webs, trying to see how Hellfire plays the Extract scenario game versus how Avengers does it. Just to give some random examples. But yes, learning how all of the different affiliations played their different styles has, I think, improved myself as a player. Now, I will say, I think as much as the affiliations will imprint themselves on me, I will imprint myself on them. And by imprint, it's the wrong word. But just because I played, say, Hydra for 24 games doesn't mean I played necessarily the best version of Hydra. I played my version of Hydra, if that kind of makes sense. So,
and a lot of the times that version of Hydra is looking through the lens of, I need to get these 7 models in the affiliation played before I move on.
Yes, there was definitely a lot of playing in affiliation models, but I always played to win games, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So I did not just put models on the table to be like, oh, well, Hydra sucks because I put, Viper, Sin, Crossbones together and they didn't do anything, right? So I didn't do that at all throughout the year. But I would put Viper in a list and be like, okay, let's see if she can be my, I think I played her with, I forgot, I have to go back and look at her. I definitely played her in Zemo 2, right? Because Viper can play Eyes, have it refunded. So she, in a Zemo 2-led Hydra list, can be your Eyes play. That's a very nice role that you want your martial artist equivalent to be able to do. Long-moving Eyes for free, basically. Anyway, so I just wanted to throw out that caveat that just because I played every affiliation does not mean I played the version
Every
of the affiliation
leadership
that.
and/or strategy, yeah.
Well, I played every leader, but that doesn't mean that I played them the way that other people have played them. Let's put it that way.
Well, but that doesn't necessarily mean you played every leadership. Because, like, maybe you played Sin 5 times, but you never used her leadership.
Nope. I actually think I played every leadership in the game 5 times or more.
Oh, okay.
I definitely played Sin as a leader in Cabal.
He sure did. He sure the fuck did. That was so stupid. That was so
I'm going to guess that game didn't go well for Jeremy.
It didn't go well that entire day, if you remember. You fucking
No, I
murdered
didn't.
everybody all day
I
long.
didn't.
Just like completely destroyed them. You're like, I thought this was going to be stupid.
Okay.
Turns out it's not bad.
Let's go ahead and jump right into this. I'm going to go into Josh from Muse asked this question. Were there any affiliations that surprised you, and why? Or do you chalk them up like your Sin wins on one day? Your Winter Guard, I know you also like outperformed. Do you just chalk that up to RNG, or do you actually think those are surprisingly much better than we think they are?
I'll take the opposite of that, and I'll say I think Inhumans are worse than I thought they were. They're my 7th highest played affiliation throughout the course of the year. And of those 7, they have by far my worst win rate. So either I'm screwing the dog with Inhumans. But, yeah, granted, I was still 60%. It's not like I was doing bad with them. But, yeah, they just ended up being really, really squishy. I still love the leadership. Black Bolt got a buff. There's no reason why they shouldn't be doing super well. And obviously they have in other tournaments. But I just can't seem to unlock Inhumans the way other people can.
Probably because you keep trying to play Captain Marvel 2.
That's still too soon.
So was there an affiliation that you were like, okay, this is not, everybody is wrong. This affiliation can play very, very well, or was?
No, and that's when I get back. Yeah.
Okay.
There was
everybody was right. Got it.
The affiliations that are good, and people are correct in that regard. Now, I will say, other than probably maybe only Sentinels and possibly Weapon X, there aren't any really unplayable affiliations. And I mean unplayable in a competitive sense, right? I mean, even Dark Dimension, if you get the right secures, I mean, Dormammu can slap pretty hard. He just needs his dice to work out.
Yeah.
So there are less favorable affiliations, but nothing is going to be unplayable or unwinnable when you put it on the table.
And on the Dark Dimension aspect, like, his investment cost is almost nothing, right? Like, he costs your 10th character slot and maybe 2 tactics cards. Like, it's so easy to squeeze that into a roster if you're already playing those secures. But, like, on the Sentinel side, it's a heavy investment, and it's usually not worth it.
Speaking of Sentinel, Josh's next question was, what model do you most want to include in future lists now that you didn't play much before? Is it Sentinel Prime? Is he the king, or there's another one?
I would have to go back to Ant-Man. I only played Ant-Man 6 times, and that was a travesty because of what Brandon said. Man, that dude is so much fun to put on the table.
Turns out just being able to place your model basically range 5 with basically 0 power cost.
He also rolls 6 dice
hilarious.
as a 3-pointer. Like, he rolls 6 dice.
He's better than Ulik on turn 1.
Yeah.
He's better than Ulik.
Yeah.
Costs 3 fucking points.
Sent Prime is a good secondary one that I played 20 times last year, but could still see more play this year. Just because how much both fun and interactive. I love it when you have decisions to make all throughout the game. And he's one model that enables that with his reroll mechanic, just like Shuri. What if Shuri cost 2 more points and got more work done? Okay, sign me up.
Josh also asked, I love this question, did 600 games increase your love of the game or cause you to tire?
Ooh, that's a great question. I can't give that a fair answer. I am slightly tired right now with MCP, but I don't think that has anything to do with the 600 games. I think that has more to do with the state of the meta than the number of games I played this year. I played, my highest play month was October, WTC Prep, and that was 75 games that month. My lowest play was June. This past December was my second lowest played at 38, which is still a lot of games in a month. So yeah, I don't think it decreased. I don't think it increased or decreased my desire to play MCP. I still think there's a lot of exploration that one could do. Like I said, I just got done playing unaffiliated Thanos, and that was a lot of fun. And that's after 588 games. I dropped all affiliation and just said, let's just put Thanos on the table with a bunch of killing models. And it was super fun and potentially innovative. So if I can be, creating random rosters out of, thin air or the characters available after 588 games, still having a bunch of fun theory crafting, I think there's still a lot that you can do in this game. So I would take that as a huge positive. Even the 25 affiliations with X many leaders and the different ways you can play those leaders, I think the game offers a huge breadth of opportunity, and I am still excited to explore that opportunity in perhaps a more casual sense next year.
Josh's last question, I think, is a little bit of a troll question, but I'm excited to know what your answer is. Why was ASM-led Web Warriors your favorite list of the whole year? I'm actually curious. That was Josh's list that he sent you on the tournament. How did that rate in the year? I'm curious on a scale.
That was one of my more fun days of Marvel. So thank you again, Josh.
Mhm.
I really, really wish Josh had just told me, I want you to play ASM every time. Like, give me Miles, but then just tell me don't play him as the leader. And I would have done that, right? Instead, he just removes half of the affiliated models from Web Warriors and just go have fun.
That's what we love.
Regardless, say what?
And that's why we love Josh.
We do love Josh.
You're doing what I say.
So I really, really enjoyed that list swap and would in fact be looking to do that with anyone else who wants to do that this coming year. I love that whole experience. So if anyone else wants to do a list swap for a tournament, just let me know. Or I will be posting at everyone. Let me know what you want to do, because I'll have fun just showing up and playing whatever someone wants to give me. So yeah, that would rate as one of my top 5 MCP moments for the year, was that tournament.
Cool.
Nice.
Leaderless X-Men, here you come.
Bring it.
All right. Johnny L asks, are there any characters who you couldn't make work or find a role for them? Is it still Dark's
turn?
turn?
Can I pause for 1 second?
Sure.
Are you intentionally messing up the names so that people don't... These are anonymous, or I'm confused?
I'm just doing what their Discord names are.
Okay, it's Johnny I.
Oh.
Not L. That's John from the store.
Okay, sorry.
And you keep reading their Discord names, and I'm like, does he not know who these people are?
I'm not trying to guess who they are. I'm not.
Gotcha. Okay.
Because no, I don't know what all their Discord names are in relation to their actual names.
Gotcha.
So I can start again with Johnny I.
No, you're good. This is John from the store for our locals.
I do know that, but I do, but I don't. I'm not trying to guess who anybody is.
Okay.
So, are there any characters who you couldn't make work or find a role for?
Just the 7 that we talked about earlier. Mm-hmm. I won't rehash them for our listeners, but yes, those are the ones that don't need to be in your collection.
Okay.
Which, for anyone listening and wanting some amazing trolling, the new list swap will contain 7 specific characters with Thanos. And go.
I can bring it.
A really interesting question I thought was cool. What percentage of your games were in real life versus TTS? Do you know?
Of course I know.
Okay.
What percentage do you guys think? 601 games. What percent was done in real life?
84%.
I'm going to say 70%.
Oof, 60%.
63.4.
Nice.
Was in real life. 381 in real life games and 220 on TTS. Now, those TTS games still count locals I played on TTS. Like if I played Richard or even sometimes Perrin at home or Kenny.
You guys couldn't be bothered to walk the 8 feet to see each other?
Occasionally, depending on what was set up on our table already. Yeah, so any game played on TTS, whether local or quote-unquote a random, even though I've gotten to know some of those guys pretty well too. Those counted as TTS in my mind. It only counted as real life if I actually physically was rolling dice.
Awesome. Liam Watt asks, was there a faction that you personally didn't enjoy playing? Not because of performance, but You just didn't like the way that they do the game.
Play style issue.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to say yes, and it's going to be Asgard and A-Force. For the reasons mentioned earlier, I felt like I was locked into a construct for a scenario that I didn't want to be locked into with the leaders I had available in those affiliations. The other ones, even some of the ones that weren't good, like I had a blast playing Dark Dimension when I played them. And my Weapon X was a Thanos in Weapon X throwing Logan downfield with Gotta Get Some Air turn 1. Wasn't super good, but it was great fun. So I found ways to make all of the quote-unquote bad affiliations a blast to play. But I did feel like Asgard and A-Force were two of my less enthused affiliations because it was more like beating my head against a wall trying to make a roster that would work for those affiliations cover the scenarios in a competitive sense.
I will say, after playing A-Force a whole lot at the competitive level, you do need a certain amount of luck on the flipping of the cards, and that's probably at a core, definitely a contributor, is just the point amount. Like, you have to be able to do some things with that. I've always felt like they had some flexibility because they had two-pointers that could score in their affiliation. They're the only affiliation that has two two-pointers that can score. And I was like, well, okay, so yeah, you have to play She-Hulk, but you have two different options for 2-pointers to make an 8-point, starting for 2 models at 8 points that can both score. I felt like that was good enough. But there are some affiliations that easily do 3 at 8 points that score. So maybe that's just a huge problem for A-Force. But I don't think it. Maybe I'm wrong, and you really need to have 3 characters in 8 points that can score in your affiliation to be considered competitive. But you guys could challenge me.
I mean, it's not just that, but like I remember one game A-Force into New X-Force. New X-Force is a really fucking good gun line. Like Domino incinerates you and Cable ports himself and just double taps you and throws a building, and you're like, well, A-Force can spread that damage out a little bit, but when you're part of it is spreading it to your 6-point leader, it's a lot of fucking damage to just be humping on her. And then that's just 2 models, and then Deadpool walks up and shoots you, and then Logan, rips you a new asshole. So there are some lists you don't want 6-point models into. I would argue that X-Force is one of them. Well, what's your backup option? And that's why people have other affiliations that are their backup option. Which makes sense from a competitive standpoint. But when you're trying to run A-Force and you end up having to go to your off affiliation 80% of the time because of the crisis combination or affiliation that you're into, that can be very frustrating.
Yeah. That's where I got to with Brotherhood, is just felt like half the games I had a bad matchup, and it's just like, if you're playing a faction that constantly is leading you into bad matchups, you're probably playing the wrong faction.
Yep.
His second question, Liam Watt's second question was, are you planning on going into the next year trying this process again with some of the updated characters, or was this a one and done goal, or are you planning on going back into this and trying to cycle through some of these new guys and try some version of this again?
My intent with this next year is to stop recording data.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, data would be one thing if I was using it to get better at the game, right? I'm not using the fact that I played X character X many times to get better, right? That's just random data that I happen to have. The actual play and repetition help me improve. I could actually take notes on what happened in a game to get better, but randomly recording data isn't worth anything more than data's sake. So to save myself a bunch of time taking pictures and recording, I think I was going to take next year off and not have a specific goal other than just to really enjoy wherever MCP takes me the next year. I think I want to prep hard for like LVO. Like when I come back from New Year's vacation here in a week, I'll have 1 or 2 LVO lists that I will try to really crack on and get about 20 games in or more. So I want to like really prep 1 or 2 super competitive lists for competitive tournaments, and then otherwise play a bunch of what I would consider really fun lists at everything that's local. So I'm not going to show up with Web Warriors to our local tournament, right? It's going to be, maybe it'll be Dark Dimension, maybe it'll be Thanos unaffiliated. Maybe it'll be Sentinels. Like, I don't know. I just want to play a lot of fun stuff locally, and then have 2 honed lists for other stuff.
So, so the data you've collected is one of my most exciting things. So I'm going to go ahead and take a second to throw a question in there. You've mentioned a couple moments, and you referred to the data to answer some of the questions. So maybe you've collected them all. But was there any other, when you're just kind of poring over all this data, was there a number that showed up that was really big or really small, and it makes you go, huh? What is that? Why? How did that happen? Or make you head scratch a little bit? It made you want to data analyze. I was curious.
Sure. So a couple things. These are just off the top of my head. When Beta Ray Bill's play exceeded that of Rhino, I was very sad. So Rhino. So I started off the year prepping for LVO 2023, and at the time I was playing Criminals. So, Criminals and Brotherhood were at the top of my limited play list, and those characters rose to the top. And Rhino was my number 1 played character for about the first 10 months of the year. And then finally, after WTC, Beta Ray Bill passed Rhino for my most played character, and I cried a little bit on the inside.
Just
Otherwise,
because you have no love for Bill, or you just
because even though Rhino is a good character, so I think Beta Ray Bill is the most meta character that exists in the game right now, and the fact that I have played him the most, which just makes me a super meta follower, just makes me want to shoot myself.
oh,
right? I mean, I want to be a snowflake. Let's not just call it what it is. I want to go out there and do something that's kind of weird and different. And playing Bill most of any character is not that. So I would have rather it had been Rhino. So I think I've talked about this a little before, but what I've found super interesting is the differences in extracts and secures. And by that, I mean my most played extract was Virus at 83. My most played secure was Demons at 84. My least played extract was Senators at 36. You might assume that my least played secure is somewhere around 36 as well. You'd be wrong. I have 3 secures that are all less than 36. Any guess what they are?
Spider Portals, Mayor Fisk, Sword Base.
You're correct. So Spider Portals.
I know you so well.
Yeah, only 13. Out of 601 games, only 13 games are played on Spider Portals.
Spider Portals is the worst mission ever designed by man.
And the world agrees, because I only have input into half of these, right? Mm-hmm. So I could have been put on a lot of Spider Portals by my opponents, but was not. My point there was...
Hold on. Do you recall any lists you played in this last year where you put Spider Portals in?
No, I cannot.
Okay, so that's 100% your opponents brought Spider Portals.
Yeah, almost.
What's your
almost
win
completely
rate?
Early on in...
Ooh. What is your win rate on Spider Portals?
That's going to take a second. Uh, 8-5.
You lost 5 games on Spider Portals.
I did lose 5 games on Spider Portals.
Stop playing Spider Portals.
Well, whatever.
I think he's talking to everybody.
Your opponents. I'm talking to the listeners. Stop putting in your list.
But my point with starting this was the extracts range from 36 to 83, but the secures range from 13 to 84. So while I have lesser played extracts, there's a good distribution. Let's put it that way. 80, 70, 60, 60, 60, 50, 50, 50, 40, 30. Whereas the secures, the top 6 are 80, 70, 70, 70, 60, 60. And I'm just giving you the tens value. After that, it drops to 30, 30, 30, 20, 20, 10. So there's a huge discrepancy after the 63 on the 6th most played one. The 7th most played one goes to 35. That's a problem. And here's why. If you are playing a tall team, what 3 secures do you take, Parker?
If you're playing a tall team, what 3? Gamma?
It's Demons, Gamma, Intrusions.
Yes. Okay. Brandon, if you're playing a wide team, what 3 do you take?
Scoundrels, Infinity, Riots.
Ding.
And there's an option instead of Infinity.
I got it.
Yes.
But by and large, those 6 secures make up, I'd have to actually do the math real quick, but it's something like
majority
80% of the secure missions I played the entire year.
Yeah. No, I was going to say that's been my observation as well. I think because there's 12 secures, isn't it right? It's 12 secures.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So there's 2 extra ones which kind of split time share with the other ones. And so, because you're never going to replace the other 6, like they're all written in stone. These are the ones you play. It's scripted. And so it's only when you play non-standard lists where you start playing any of the other ones. And so the remaining 6 missions, 2 of them are absolute dog shit, and then the other 4 just kind of timeshare the other, uses.
So this is probably a good question for a different actual cast topic, but
Yeah.
does the fact that the secure distribution is skewed so heavily, is that a cause or a symptom of the meta? Like, and by that, is it not a cause of the meta? Is it a symptom of the meta, or is it a symptom of the fact that the secures are poorly designed?
I think it's both, but it's for different missions. So, like, obviously Spider Pearls is just so fucking bad no one should use it. But when it comes to, like, Mayor Fisk, I think it's mostly due to the fact that it's a mission that you can lose due to, like, very specific situations. Kind of like Worthy is, where it's like one turn in Worthy can swing the entire game. And people don't like that. They would like to, like, have the missions be more consistent. But I think for, like, Sword Base and what's the other secure?
Meteors, Cosmic Invasion, and Madman.
Meteors. Yeah, I think those... Madman should probably be played more, but mostly people don't like pay to flips. But for, like, Meteors, Sword Base, those, they're just kind of scrums. People don't play the medium, like, the mid-tier armies right now. Everyone's either going super wide or super tall. And so the armies that want to play those missions just aren't getting played. I think that's the symptom for them, but then also some of the secures are just terrible.
Yeah. So getting back to Liam's question, I think it was Liam's. So yes, the data definitely leads us to that discussion that there is a problem with the secures, whether that problem is their design or the meta, whereas the extracts are relatively well-balanced in distribution, which leads me to believe that they're relatively well-balanced overall.
Interesting. That was actually Parker's question, not Liam's question. But yeah.
Good job, Parker.
Thanks.
Real quick, I want to point out, I actually think Mayor Fisk is one of the highest skill cap missions in the game, and it needs to be played more often.
It is super fun to play that mission also. I really enjoy that mission.
I think people initially go, well, I don't want my models to be stunned, and so they just don't put it in. But because you can just get more experience than your opponent with the mission, it lets you make plans far out in advance that can dramatically affect the game. And I think it's really good.
I played into Kenny at the Warfare Weekend Finals on Fisk, and it was a great game. The entire first turn was like a nuclear bomb went off in the middle of the table because no one was in like range 5 of the center of the table. Like both Fisks were completely uncontested. We both refused.
What's also amazing about Fisk is that part of the strategy of Fisk is actually contesting without scoring.
Yeah.
Like when you're like, that was one of my favorite things to do is when somebody's like, okay, I'm going to put 2 models on this. And I go, well, I'm going to put 2 models on it also, but I could put a third, or I could move one of your models away, but I'm not going to because I need this Fisk to stay there and not go off. So like, there's that's one of the things I love about Fisks. I think it's really interesting. Unlike every other secure in the game, which is the point is get them off, get you one. That's the point. It doesn't, like, that's the idea. Score it. Score. But Fisk is one of the only ones where there is a nuance where it's actually there is a time and place to score it. It is actually something you should consider when you're activating, rather than just make sure you're scoring, which is the formula for every other secure.
The other best thing about Mayor Fisk?
What's that?
If you choose to play extended, you can play hired muscle and move the tokens.
Yeah.
And then to watch your opponent pull out a knife.
Yeah, there is a way to score both Fisks on turn 1 and lose because you did that. Like, that's one of my favorite things about Fisk.
That's why I love it. It's so fun to play. Because it takes, even if you played that matchup 30 times, playing it on Mayor Fisk will immediately change the way the game works. Alrighty, what's next?
I want to show we have one final question. This is from M. Whalen. They asked a really interesting question, and it's got a lot of nuance to it, so I'm going to try to paraphrase as best I can. After playing nearly every model in the game multiple times, how do you view the difference between the top meta models and the next tier of models? Is there is there a really intense delineation, or is it actually much closer than we think?
That's a good question. My initial answer is there's not as big a difference. If you want to not play beta, but instead play something else, that's probably totally fine. However, beta is the wrong model to actually use in that specific situation. Because beta is a size 4 throw with DR, right? So he just has the whole package. But to get to his point, most of the time, you can play, I'm going to call it a model down, but you can play the lesser non-optimized version of that role and be totally fine. Like, the game is still, I think, 90% player skill and dice.
Yeah.
And 10%, this model is better than that model.
Mm-hmm.
Again,
let's say more like a X-23 Ant-Man situation.
Yeah. You could bring them both to run around the table and kill stuff and get work done and try not to die. And they both do it in very different ways. Everyone will say X-23 is the better murderer. But what if you brought Ant-Man to do that role for 10 games and just see how it worked out? And dude slaps pretty hard.
There's actually not that many like direct parallel models to look at. There's a lot of like generic rapid fire people, but they all have like their own skill set that they're good at doing. I'd say probably Mystique and Punisher, two of the most similar models, which is an obvious choice for most people because Mystique is affiliated with several factions, or at least one. And I guess Punisher is now too. But she also has the shape change ability, which is super clutch in the current meta and obviously access to deception.
But let's say Luke Cage versus Iron Fist. I think Luke Cage is usually the better option, depending on your list. But would I bat an eye about someone taking Iron Fist because they just like Iron Fist better? Nope. You still have Heroes for Hire. And
Red Guardian's a good parallel as well.
Right. So I don't think you would be wrong to play any of the three of those in that I want a bodyguard slot for a 3 threat. And you can definitely win with the second and third versions of that option. That was a long answer to that question, but I think that was probably one of my main takeaways from the entire experiment or quest, if you will, was only 7 of those characters ended up complete trash. The other 147 were absolutely playable in a competitive sense. And so I mean that not just on a Thursday night, but I think all the rest of those models have a subjective home in a competitive roster somewhere.
Yeah.
I think it's really interesting because I think I've done it on this cast many, many times, fallen in the trap of saying or thinking to myself, yeah, but why play that? Because there is a better version in X other place. And what I'm asking, these tiny little tiers of difference can be so minuscule. I probably don't have to work that hard, right? I could probably create a list that is not absolutely optimized and still perform as well as the absolutely optimized list.
Perfect example of comparison models like Omega Red and Venom are like practically the same model a lot of the time. Crossbones and Drax, I remember, was our first parallel we ever made because Drax is almost the exact same design space as Crossbones. And you look at them side by side, you're like, how are these two models even in the same game? Like, there's one is so much better than the other, and now they're like, most people put them in the same category. Yeah, it's kind of interesting to look at. And that's why I complained a lot when we talked about like overpowered models. I brought up X-23. It's like no one is ever going to choose a 3-point model that's in their list solely for killing over X-23 because she has the higher ceiling than any of them.
But you
and
can't.
So it's just you could, right? You could put in Valkyrie over X-23, and it's like turns out she actually has a lot of arguments as to why she might even be better than X-23. But when you only look at the upside, it's obvious X-23 is better. But when you're like, well, what if I just want to be able to double move throw you? And you're like, oh, well, turns out she just can't do that. So obviously Valkyrie's better. And so like, how many times does that happen in a game where it's like, well, this model's technically 3% better by all of the value, but you only actually cared about 30% of her card anyway, so it doesn't even really matter.
I really like that point. I'm glad I actually saved that one for last on purpose because I was curious. That was the one I was most excited about. I'm glad I did because that was the that one was I think one of the coolest questions that came out of this, because it's one of those that I struggle with personally a lot. I have thrown away whole lists because a certain number of models I felt were non-optimized versions of those models, and then
you're like, I could just go play Avengers and all my models get upgraded.
Yeah, I feel like every time I do that to myself, I feel a little sad because I'm not playing. Hulkbuster is my favorite one. Hulkbuster, I love playing Hulkbuster. I love playing his leadership, but it's not the best leadership in the game. And so oftentimes I will just put him down and say, no, I'm not going to play him, even though I absolutely love him. But I don't do it because it's not the optimized version of the Avengers. So I probably shouldn't. I should just do it because the actual difference is so small.
I do have one more thing I want to say, kind of in summation, I guess. Or I guess in...
Well, I figured we were going to do the cast questions after this, but I actually have one more listener question.
Well, let me say this because I'm going to forget it otherwise.
Go for it.
This tags back to a question about what I guess I'm doing in 2024 or something to that effect. I'm going to give credit to Jacob Deaton. I think he said this, but if he didn't, then oh well, he can take the credit anyway.
Then fuck him.
Yeah. There's a difference between practicing and playing. What I have done for the past year is play a lot of MCP. And I think what he means is practice is when you're taking a list and you're refining it and you're testing it into various other lists and you're finding the one weakness and you're swapping out your 10th character to combat that one, weakness your other 9 couldn't do, etc. That's practicing, which I have done zero of this entire year. I have just been playing a shit ton of Marvel. Okay, I lied. I practiced for the WTC.
Yeah. I was going to say, we got a solid 20 games of practice in.
Yeah. That took my Avengers to way more play than I want to do, but
a lot of people will call it tournament prep. Like you're specifically refining your shot to win.
And sometimes people will play a list for 6 months or an entire year, and all they do is play that list competitively. Like they might play other stuff on the side, but they are practicing that list. Other than WTC, I didn't do that all year. Like I did not practice a list for Warfare or NashCon or anything like that. So what I did was gain a lot of general MCP knowledge and play pattern, right? Practice with the play that I did. So I am kind of looking forward to practicing a list or two to see how good I can actually get with that list, while continuing to play a bunch of stuff for fun on the side. So instead of just playing a lot of different games with the affiliation du jour based on what I needed to play for my quest, I'll be able to say, okay, we're going to get good with these two lists, and I'm going to actually practice using Jacob's definition of the term. So I'm kind of hyped to see how well I can take one or two of these lists throughout the course of the year. Anyway, just wanted to give some credit to him and talk about my plans for the future now that I remembered it. Okay, cool. Back to you, Brandon.
Last question I had. What do you call a boomerang that doesn't come back? A stick. I only read this one because it was a listener submission. And this person is an idiot. Everyone should shame him. His name is Connor. Everyone make fun of him. Connor is bad at jokes.
For the folks out there that are listening to this, we do not have a submission option for these fucking jokes. This is not something like...
Disagree.
No, like, that's not part of this. Jesus Christ. That
was the worst one I think I've ever had.
I don't, oh my God. I just want to go to sleep. I just want to forget that this day existed.
Thanks,
wow.
So bad.
We broke him hard.
There's one that Richard gave me that I like. It's definitely one for text and not for audio. So I never read it on cast, and this one was even worse than that one. Okay. So Jeremy, why don't you ask any questions you might have for Aaron about his experience?
I don't have anything.
No questions?
Nah.
All right. Well, we'll come back to you in case you think of something later. I have one question I'd like to ask.
Mm-hmm.
What is your favorite false positive data of your entire data collection? Like data that is not indicative of the truth and to be false, but yet the data suggests it. It's like, for example, going down, it's like, oh, this model is a 93% win rate, but I know it's a bad model. And it's just like happen to coincide with a weird number of wins.
Okay, this is going to be an interesting call out that our locals will understand more than anyone else.
Mm-hmm.
The largest false data positive I have in my my set here is my win rate against one Quentin Torres. Would you say that Quentin is a very good MCP player?
He is a very, very strong MCP player.
Mm.
Okay. So would it surprise you if he against him was my highest win rate of anyone locally?
No, not based on any conversation I've ever had with Quentin. Because
Sure.
it's usually like I'll be standing near the counter and Quentin will be like walking out with his bottles. I'm like, hey, how'd it go? He's like, lost Aaron 3 times. And he just walks out the door. Like that's how my day went.
So he beat me in the first ever game we played. He was kind of new to the shop. He came and he was doing some really aggressive stuff with some web warriors. And
Everybody gets one.
Say what?
Everybody gets one.
Yeah, he just took me to town. I was like, huh, okay. I'll spot you the first one. Not that I was spotting him anything, right? I mean, he legit just kicked my ass with him. And then after that game, I've gone 29-4 against him,
Jesus
which
Christ.
is in no way, shape, or form indicative of Quentin's capabilities. Like, maybe I really have just been lucky as dog shit in a bunch of those. Like, some of them have, absolutely. But I was shocked at that win rate because he is a much better player than that data suggests. How about that? So
I remember there
that's
was
both
a
a
time
dig
period
and a positive for him.
Yeah, no, Quinn's very good. There's definitely a period in which I remember specifically he said there's like the script is in, and it's like because I attack Aaron's Thanos with 8 dice attacks and deal 0 damage every single time. And it was like he had a sample size of like 30. It was like getting very suspicious.
Yeah. So anyway, that was the actual of all the data. That was the thing that
Okay.
actually
How
surprised me the
about
most.
not directly related at ruining somebody's life? How about like a specific model data? Any affiliations that had abnormal win rates?
So I was below 50% win rate with one affiliation up until this week.
Was it unaffiliated?
It was not.
Oh, okay.
I was 2-0 with unaffiliated before I started mine affiliated.
So you're 12-0?
8-2.
Ooh.
Yeah, unaffiliated is actually doing pretty well for me. No, the one affiliation that I just can't, well, small sample size, but was not working out for me will probably surprise you, and it kind of surprised me. You actually enjoy this affiliation a lot.
Is it Brotherhood?
No.
Okay. What is it?
Convocation.
Convocation is definitely an oddball.
I would think, again, ego speaking here, you know, I can be a pretty high-brain person. I would think I'd be able to figure out how to play a quote-unquote high-brain affiliation with a bunch of different tactics cards and no leader, right? And you just do weird shit. With a really good leadership that basically says you're never two-tapping me.
So I don't think... they are definitely known as being a high skill ceiling like faction, but I don't think it's directly related to like game experience. It's just that they're weird. And so like they have a lot of triggers to remember, and that's like something I would expect you to do pretty well with. But they don't play the game like other factions do. They're this weird like predatory faction where it's like they want to take advantage of specific models. And I don't think you view the game that way. You view the game through the lens of I'm trying to achieve the objective of the mission most of the time. And obviously, like if you're playing an attrition faction, you're going to lean into attrition. But the things that they tend to succeed at, in my experience, is playing the game in a completely different way than most other people do. And so I'd say they have a high learning curve, not that they're necessarily difficult to play. And they might be both, but they're definitely the first.
Yep. So that was interesting for me. The 3 affiliations that had the highest amount of play with the lowest win rates for me, which again leads towards less of a small sample size issue, were X-Men, Inhumans, and Hydra. So I don't know if you would find those to be interesting or not. I think I did a little bit.
I actually think that lines up with what I would have guessed.
Okay.
Inhumans is a little surprising, but I think because they put so much of the game on dice, they tend to regress to the curve more often than not. Parker, did you have any more questions for Aaron?
No, I got all my questions out. I'm excited. I'm excited for I say I'm excited. I'm excited that how many people asked great questions. It was really fun to organize them. And after I was kind of done curating them, I was like, man, they're going to get to a lot of things. We've talked about this in our last questions episode, which is the communities do such a great job of putting their heads together and coming up with some, great ways to look around the problem and really see all the facets of it. So I think they did a great job. I did want to know about your data a little bit, but you answered all my questions.
I've got another set for then. Question for you guys. Did I have a higher win rate in TTS or in real life?
TTS.
Real life.
Jeremy's correct. Real life was 76%, TTS was 67%.
Yeah, but what if you exclude Quentin?
So here's something else I found super interesting. Again, I just took my 14 most played locals and my win rate there, because I thought that would skew the data, right? It turns out it was 0.1% off of the mean. So like 72.6 was my win rate against, Jeremy, Perrin, Ken, Quentin, Brandon, all the people that I play the most locally. And my win rate against everyone else, both on TTS and in real life, was 72.7, right? It was 0.1% off. So that kind of shocked me with how similar they were. So the data wasn't getting skewed by playing certain people over and over, or like beating up on, on Perrin or locals and then losing to other top players, if that kind of makes sense. So there wasn't a huge data skew. I thought there would have been.
Cool. Alrighty. Well, if nobody has any more questions, we can go ahead and wrap it up.
I actually have one question that came out of I was discussing with my wife what the topic was today, and as I was collecting the questions, and she was like 600 games, and I went, yeah. She went, how do you play that many games? Like just in terms of time, just like hours. I'm curious. Did it feel like it took an inordinate amount of time to actually get, that's something like, it's got to be like 1,000 hours of games in a year. Did it?
I mean, it's probably north of that, I would guess. Like if you count like setting up the actual tables and stuff.
I'm being really minimal because you're also driving from, BFE, Missouri when you're trying to get in-person games. So how do you feel like it was a time commitment that was only possible because you were retired, or do you feel like it was like, no, you could do this. This is a thing.
I think you could do it if you weren't retired. I think that helped a lot. Like being able to paint and just, look for game on TTS while I'm painting and one pops up and then I'll play one.
Just doing some quick mental math, you're averaging about 3 to 4 hours a day investment to get this done.
Yeah. There were times on like Thursday game night I'd knock out 5 of them, right? That was kind of the norm. Like I show up at 11, get a game in with James, play game with Perrin, hit up Brandon, Jeremy shows up, then play Quentin. So, I get 5 games in on a Thursday. So you figure there's 52. There's 250 games just on, showing up and playing all day on Thursdays. That's a big part there. Now, I will say one thing I did, like when people are practicing and grinding, like they'll play like the first 2 turns of a game and then re-rack, right? Just to get reps in with kind of the most important things. And that's something I never did. So each one of my games is a full playthrough of, just a normal MCP game. So yeah, it did take quite a bit of time, but I never felt that was a chore.
Yeah, I guess that was my question is, for some reason, the first thing I thought was 600 games sounds fun. Like that's like it didn't even occur to me the amount of time it would take to do all that. But coming from somebody who just gets to see me spend time playing games, who's very aware of how much time I'm not at the house, she was just like, wow, that would be a lot of time to play games. So that's awesome.
Yep.
Cool.
I'm just happy that after each game, I don't go home thinking, that motherfucker wrote it down. I'm so glad to know that you're writing all of this down. So now that your pad's gone, Jesus Christ.
Oh, wait, now that the pad is gone, do we get to see the actual cards again?
Yeah, so you actually get your goddamn taxes cards.
Are you actually going to play
little lines
objective?
that nobody can read and put them underneath other cards?
We're just all bits of data to him. Just put your models down. Shut up. Play.
Knowing that upsets you so much, you will definitely see the pad in the future.
Yeah, well, I'll be taking pictures of your shit too. All right.
I'll just not actually count anything that he does that's written down. Like, oh, that's cool, you have brace. I just still need you to roll those block dice. Unless you actually have a card to play.
For the listeners, they're making fun because I would show up with like 5 different lists to play, and it's impossible to get 5 different lists of tactics cards out and keep them safe and separate. So I just write them down on a piece of paper, which ones I was taking
Impossible
for the game.
is a strong word.
Yeah.
Laborsome, I think, is a term I would use.
Ooh, that's a good
Lazy
term.
is another term.
Well, if I focus on 1 or 2 lists, then it'll be pretty easy to pick out the tactics cards for just those lists.
I don't know. I mean, you can't really be bothered to do much anymore. I mean, it's so laborsome.
This is true. I also had an average of 4.95 models per games played.
Yeah, I could have told you that you like playing wide, so
yeah,
that's not surprising.
I don't think anybody's said it yet, so I will say it. Congratulations! Like, that is a huge achievement to my mind. That is awesome. It is a really cool thing that you made a goal a year ago, and you're like, I'm going to do something like 600 games of a game that takes 2+ hours to play, and I'm really going to see the whole length and breadth of the game as it is right now, and I'm going to go around the whole circuit. That's a trip around the world. That's a big goal.
It's my second most proud achievement after Kama Sutra front to back and back to front.
Was it more fun back to front?
Absolutely, when you knew it was coming.
Back to front. Sorry, there's other things about Kama Sutra back to front that makes me...
That's the joke, yeah.
For those that don't know, all of Aaron's models are painted as well. So to me, like, the fact that you did this, I mean, I know you're retired and you're kind of a psycho when it comes to playing games. So I could see you getting this done. But the fact that you got this done with all of your models painted as well, like the entire range, which for me, like, no one usually keeps up with me. And you usually have it all done before I do. So huge props there. My God.
Nice.
I'm honestly considering buying a second set of models that I have painted, so I have unpainted versions of them to play against Jeremy.
I refuse.
Okay.
I will no longer be a part of your guys' data collection processes.
No, I'm not going to record the data. I'm just going to watch your face. One of my favorite things to do in life right now is just watch Jeremy have like disappointed and frustrated looks on his face.
Which for some reason
happens on a high
I was going to say,
rate.
for some reason, I have been quite disappointed in you lately.
And not me in general, just, life.
Just, mostly you, though.
Is it? Okay, well, that makes me feel even better.
It's not business, it's personal.
Yeah. All right, well, thanks for tuning in, everybody. Hopefully you enjoyed Aaron's year-end review. This has been Brandon.
And Parker.
And disappointed Jeremy.
And Aaron.
And you've just listened to 600.
And one.
So what are we going to call this thing?
I got it. Okay. Incredible, new, fantastic, astonishing, mighty, original, uncanny, sensational podcast.
I'm just going to put down infamous.
And we did it.
Oh, man.
Fucking did it, man.
Jeremy, I'm surprised to see you here since Parker said specifically you said you weren't coming tonight.
You know what I'm actually surprised by? That I can see... I'm
I
surprised
noticed.
I can see Jeremy's whole house. That's really cool because normally you're quite in the dark, and so it's kind of cool.
He's
actually
painting, yeah. He's got to move the camera.
Let me fix that, fuckers.
Turn off all the lights. No, he's saying how well illuminated the place is.
No,
right
I'm just
now.
saying
Normally
it's...
you've got all
Oh
the
yeah,
lights off.
no, I panicked. Yeah. I got in a painting mode, and I looked down, and then I looked up, and I was like, "Oh shit!"
Yeah, and then you're like, "I have a ding." Oh, it's 9:45. Shit. Yeah, I figured that was what happened.
I had this memory of reading a message from you that said something to the effect of, it's still crazy holiday nonsense here, but I can't remember if it was just like a week ago or this week. So I told Brandon I had a distant memory of you mentioning.
Don't try and put your episodes on me. That's not
trying.
happening. You will be responsible for all tardiness and lateness.
That's what I
Tardiness
thought I was doing,
executioner.
but apparently I'm
The tardiness executioner. And now he's just making stuff up, trying to execute people. I'm like, whoa, yo, hold on.
When you give anybody power, that's what happens.
Reckless abandon.
Brandon, update on Hoodie. Sarah has a follow-up question. Should we put this on the pre-ramble?
Sure,
Are you excited for everybody to know this follow-up question? Or I can wait till afterwards.
I really need to get my jock straps repaired, and so this is very important to me.
Does the hoodie have a lining on the inside of the hood? Is it 2 pieces of fabric, or is it actually just one?
I believe it is 2, but only the outside one popped. The seam on the outside popped. The inside is just heavy fleece.
Okay. She said that makes it much more difficult, but not impossible. So she would like. So she said she'd like to have it, and she could see what she can do.
Cool.
Are we offering clothing repair services? Because
we know Sarah, maybe.
Oh
yeah, Sarah.
I just know that she's a master quilter. So
yeah,
she
is. She's very much a textile artist, and because of that, one of the things she will do sometimes is something will like break on my clothes, and she'll go, "No, that's impossible." Like she can just immediately just tell. Like, that's not unfixable. And I go, oh, but it's just 2 pieces of fabric. She goes, you don't understand. Like, you can't put it back the way that it was because of X, Y, Z. And she can just look and tell. So, whenever...
Meanwhile, me duct taping my jeans back together is... Right. I don't know if you've ever done garment repair with staples. I have. And let me tell you, it is not as hard as you might think. In fact, it's quite easy. It's just staples.
My dad tried to put himself back together with staples once.
Oh my god.
Did I ever tell you this story?
Your dad stapling himself back together?
Yeah.
Is this a home surgery story? Those are my favorite.
Yes, because he laid into his thigh with a chainsaw. Yeah.
Infamous does not rate or suggest any Parker stories.
Yeah, but it was one of those that it was actually, so you're picturing like tons of blood and gore, like a scene from a video game, but it actually wasn't that at all, because we were cutting down hedge trees, if you don't know, Osage orange trees from one of our earlier episodes, incredibly dense. And so the chainsaw he had been running on had been doing this for hours, and the blade was so insanely hot that when it laid down into his leg, it actually just instantly cauterized the flesh. So it was like a lightsaber going into his leg. Like there was no blood or viscera or anything. It just took out like a perfect, exactly, imagine a chainsaw blade width. That just kind of went down into his thigh, and that was it. Like, it was one of the weirdest things I've ever seen in my life. I saw like into his leg, but nothing was there to see. It was just a gap in his leg. And so he was like, I don't know what to do. Like, he wasn't bleeding. It wasn't like, he was in shock, I guess, so he wasn't feeling a ton of pain. So he tried to staple it together. He just like take a stapler and just like staple the flesh together. And my mom caught him doing it. She's like, we're going to the hospital, idiot. And so
yeah, you fucking moron.
But he tried to put it together with butterflies and staples.
Good Lord.
Yeah. It was one of the most bizarre things I've ever seen in my life, is like a real life lightsaber cut. It was just like, went into his leg, there's a gap in his leg, nothing else.
So you wouldn't recommend it?
Mm-mm. No, don't try that at home.
Okay.
Don't.
-5.
Yeah.
On the scale of things to do to yourself.
I'm sure he survived just barely, missing his femoral artery. I'm confident that was just blind, dumb luck prevented him from a terrible death.
From dying.
Yeah.
Death.
That reminds me of one of the Jeremy Gregg stories from working at JUCO as like a technician in the audio video department. And so like his job was basically he checks in and out the equipment that the college owns to people in those classes that are authorized to use the equipment. And so he works right next to the HVAC department where they teach people how to do HVAC repair and installation and stuff. And so it is in between semesters, I think. Like it's staff only, basically. And so they're doing some maintenance on the ventilation hood for the HVAC department. And so it's this huge like warehouse-sized room where they do all the work. And so the guy's working on the vent hood because it needed like a blower motor replaced or something. So the guy, like, locks out the box, turns off the power, and he's on a 30-foot ladder in the middle of this room working on the unit. And apparently somebody comes by and goes, oh, well, clearly nobody's in here working on this. And so he, like, tries to take his lock off of the junction box. Fails to get the lock off because he doesn't have the key. So then he decides the next best thing to do is go into the tool room, which is immediately adjacent, and get some bolt cutters and cut the lock off. Meanwhile, not checking with anyone at all. Cuts the lock off, throws the power switch, and the guy gets thrown across the room by the shock. And lands on the ground and wakes up instantly and is like, what the hell is going on? And like, it took him several minutes to figure out what happened. And then the guy heard the commotion of the guy being thrown across the room. And he comes running in, and they take him to the emergency room. I guess they do an EKG on him, and they're like, yeah, your heart stopped for like 3 seconds. And so they hypothesized that the electric shock stopped his heart, but him hitting the ground from a 30-foot drop restarted it. And so, like, you should be dead. I don't know why this happened. So it turns out if you ever see a padlock on a off switch on a power junction, don't cut the lock off and turn the power on.
Pretty sure you go to jail for that.
It is basically criminal negligence. Yeah, you should go to jail.
So I finally went back to work today, and then I'm taking a bunch of days off, but everyone knows that I went to the Chiefs game. So it was like, it was almost like an uncle that you've never talked to died. Like, they were, like, kind of skirting around it to talk to me about it because they know, like, I went and all that. And they're like, and I'm like, yeah, man, they played like shit. What do you want us to do? Like, I don't fucking care anymore. I'm like, go Ravens.
Ooh.
It was tough.
So would you say you're a fair weather fan?
I enjoy.
I know he said he's a Ravens fan. Could you not hear him?
I enjoy watching football played by exciting, good players, and currently they're just not doing that. So I'm not enjoying that.
Oof. You just got to focus on the other side of the ball right now. The defense actually played very well.
Yeah, but we also get to walk out while the other teams, people who are representing them, are like, eat a dick, Chiefs, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, yo, calm down. Like, I got back into football because Mahomes was, like, blowing up the field. I enjoy watching exciting sports. And just what we saw recently over the last few games has not been overly exciting.
Yeah. I understand the frustrating part of the offense, of the players at least. I can understand that. I can understand, like, the special teams had a couple bad plays. The part that I can't understand is the institutional errors that were happening. Like, it's like they changed who's calling the plays between this week and last week. They weren't getting plays in on time. They were calling weird head-scratching plays where it's like under a minute left to play and it's like 2nd and 1 and they run a running play, like an off-tackle run play that we haven't run all year. Just like, what are you doing? Like, best case scenario, you burn 20 seconds off the clock. Best case. I'm like, what are you thinking? Like, yeah, it's like just like if you have to do that, you wait till 4th down when it's like, okay, we're going to lose anyway, so you might as well just get the guaranteed yardage kind of stuff. Like, that makes no sense. The, like, trick plays that they were running, like, I'm all for trick plays. I think they're really fun. Perfect example, we had the fake punt. That was really exciting. But, like, the trick plays that they tried to run at that game were just like, what are you doing? Like, handing the ball off to Mahomes? Like, I understand the pitch, but, like, no one on that play executed. Not a single person. It's like they threw that play together like an hour before the game and like explained it to them verbally without actually having them practice it. Like, that's how it looked. Like, nobody knew what they were supposed to be doing. Like, it's just stuff like that I don't like. Like, I've lived through some rough Chiefs years. Like, I get it. Like, I'm actually still, like, this is still one of the better Chiefs years of my lifetime. So I think some people are a little overreacting. It is frustrating.
Yeah, and I'm not. The thing is I'm a fan. I enjoy the players. I enjoy the things that they're doing, and it's super fun. But just like I came home after the game we went and saw, and I sat there and I watched, like I say, the Ravens game, who, I mean, they played fucking amazing. And I'm just like, man, I remember when we used to do that. We just haven't played with that sharpness and quality in a
Yeah.
bit, and it's really painful. It's like, Jesus Christ, guys.
I agree with Connor, one of our locals, that it is almost for sure a coaching issue at this point. And so, like, a lot of people didn't want Eric Bieniemy to stay. I was one of them. I thought Eric Bieniemy was kind of past his point at which he was helping the team. And maybe I was super wrong, or maybe it's just the new guy just is not doing anything. I don't know. But so if there are less than 4 people on the offensive coaching staff fired this offseason, I will be surprised.
Sure.
Wide receiver coach and probably offensive coordinator as like the key points. Like you can't be this bad with such a good talent. Like you have Travis Kelce and Patrick Mahomes, and your offense is frustratingly bad. Like that's not okay.
Yeah. Yep.
And if we like going into the year, we had like 8 wide receivers we were excited to see play. None of them got better. Not a single one. Many of them regressed. And I think that's indicative of the coaching. Like if you were progressing upward and then out of nowhere you turn downward and across the board at a position group, that's probably the coach. Anyway, I'm sure people are done listening to football talk at this point.
So we got Gabe got one of my boys. He got it's a Lego and it's a Venom Groot. It is so fucking cool. He put it together and like it took him about a day and a half, and he worked on it until he had blisters all over his fingers. It was pretty incredible. I'm like, good for you, buddy. Know what real OCD is.
Yeah.
And it's just sitting up on the mantle. I'm looking at it. It's just fucking amazing what they put together with Legos now.
That's really cool.
Pretty neat.
Is it next to your Deadpool?
Actually, it is. It's very close to it. It's on my mantle.
If they're not already fighting, you're wrong.
Well, one's tiny and one's humongous.
Doesn't fucking matter.
It's like a it's actually like a giant action figure. Like the thing like bends and moves, and like all the fingers and stuff work, and the legs work.
Wow, really?
Wow. Yeah, it's pretty amazing. Also, mad props to Spider-Man 2, the game. It's fucking amazing.
Oh, the new one? Yeah.
I got this for Christmas. I haven't put it together yet.
Oh, yeah, that's the equivalent.
Uh-huh.
How many pieces is that one?
In it. 476, so not too much.
Gabe's was, I think, 600 or something like that, so about the same.
My favorite is the thing I'm most excited about is Awesome Mix Volume 2 in Lego form.
Yeah.
Which comes with it, which I think
That's
is
cool.
fucking. I think it's fucking. Sweet.
I'd be more than happy to get that jammed in my tape deck.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Speaking of tape deck, nobody gave me any shit about the movie selection. The topic selection. Are you guys?
That's true. You were not literally like executed on camera for
Booed
your
away.
liking of Deuce Bigelow.
Okay, good. But you guys are okay with the new topic? Best soundtrack, score, whatever you want to call it?
Sure. That's fine.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. For clarification, it doesn't have to be original orchestral music, unless you could do that, but you could also do, like, it's just a collection of other artists or whatever. I own so many movie soundtracks. This was actually really hard, this one. So I'm having a hard time.
Oh, well, I own 0 movie soundtracks, so...
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I used to get a bunch of those. The problem with this category is I think most of mine have been said before, maybe not by me, but other people. Like, a lot of the ones that I like are kind of the samey same.
I have 7, and that's it. Really 6.
I have 8, and none of the 8 I would be sad about choosing. So I'm excited to see what happens.
Cool.
Mine are all pathetic.
I have to check on one and see if I've ever said it before.
Oh, is the movie? Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm on my second watch through of Blue-Eyed Samurai. Just as good the second time. If folks haven't ran out and watched that, that's their fault, and they're missing out.
Yeah, it's very, very, very good.
Yeah, I'll get to it eventually.
I haven't gotten to the second watch yet. I've actually been watching the new What If series. They're doing one a day of between Christmas and New Year's.
Oh yeah, I watched the
didn't
first
know
one of that. Yeah.
Yeah, I am on episode 3 or 4. I just did the holiday episode. It's pretty funny. I liked it. Yeah,
I liked the first one. I was kind of shocked. I'm I'm pleasantly surprised when they're good now.
Hmm. I actually think I'm enjoying it more going in with really low expectations.
Probably, yeah.
Than I used to
true.
go in with just like super high, like this is going to be end game again. Let it wash over me, like, and I
Yeah.
Mhm.
They can do no
when it-
wrong.
right. And as it turns out, I should be walking in going like, this could be, a Predator sequel, and I could be
Alien
be that
7.
bad.
This one's going to
Yeah.
be good, right?
right. This could be that.
Let's see. Previous What If, I thought there were at least 3 absolutely great episodes.
Uh-huh.
And then the rest of them were just kind of fun.
I liked all of them except I did not like the Thor one. I thought the Thor one was stupid.
Hmm.
And I also didn't like the one with Black Panther and
Yeah, I didn't like that one
was,
either.
I didn't like either of those. All
I
the
think
rest of them were
both of
good.
those. Yeah, I think those were both easily the weakest too.
I can say.
Go
ahead.
Go ahead.
I'll go. They one of the things I thought was kind of cool was they decided to do like an Avengers reboot kind of one, and basically just taking like alternate universe. What if there was another reason to make the Avengers? Just like what if that was what if it wasn't the original one? And I thought it was kind of interesting. It's not a super like conceptually incredible idea. It was just what if the Avengers had a different reason to form? Ta-da! Like that's all
Yeah.
it was. I was like, this was actually cool. Like I enjoyed watching this. It kind of made me feel like the first Avengers movie again, which was fine because it's just a television show. It's not like they're trying to milk.
Yeah.
They're not trying to spend multi-millions of dollars to milk another reboot on the box office. It was just some obviously creative people going like, what if there was a different Avengers for a different reason? And they're like, that's cool. I like this. This was fun to watch. I like it when What If does specifically that kind of thing. I also read a ton of What If comics, and they're always fun when they do that.
Mhm. Yeah, I think I still have a bunch of What If comics.
Cool. All right. Well, let's go ahead and jump into it because I'm not sure how long our main topic today will last. Parker, do you have a comic corner lined up?
I don't because I've been so busy getting all the questions for Aaron and making sure that was all ready to go.
Okay. Why don't you think about one in case we need it, and
Sure.
then if you need to step away to grab one, we can do that.
Mm,
I meant like when we get there.
oh, like if we need one, just so we're not going to kill time right now doing it. Got it.
Yeah. If we hit a point where we want a comic corner, I'll just cut the time it takes you to get one.
Sure.
Alrighty. Do we have any news?
Not that I know of.
Okay. How many games is it, Aaron? 600?
Ended up at 601.
We're gonna say 600.
You say what you want. I'm going to say 601.
That's fine.
We round up. It's 700.
Alrighty. Okay, so we're already up against time, so let's go ahead and get to the movies. So Parker, this time we are doing soundtracks.
Yeah, best soundtracks / scores, whatever is the music that plays behind the movie.
Okay.
It could be original music for it. It could be orchestral. It could be anything. You love the music
that's fair.
as much or more than the movie. They're all about it.
And this is not like musicals, right? Like it's specifically just if you had to pick a soundtrack to buy and listen to, you'd pick this one no matter what it is.
Mm-hmm. I think you
Okay.
could. I don't know if I want to totally say no musicals because maybe the characters.
I feel like
sang it,
original,
but-
yeah, like doing like a sing-along type thing is just a different thing. We've already done musicals,
Right.
and so yeah.
I specifically kept all the musicals off mine. I went with
Okay.
just soundtracks that I love or movies that have iconic. When you hear it,
Yeah.
you don't even have to know the movie. Like to me, when you hear the music, you're like, I know exactly that. I know exactly what it
Okay.
is.
Those are all of my list because I have 0 of the other kind you mentioned.
All right, so Aaron's gonna pass 3 times.
Possibly.
All
But
right.
do you have only musicals, Aaron? Is that what you're saying?
No. I have only movies that you can identify based off of one or more very specific scores.
Yeah, I think
Because
that's good.
otherwise, I could not tell you what the score is to a specific movie.
Oh yeah, I
if
think
that makes
everyone
sense.
that's what everyone's doing.
Well,
but not like
sure.
it's not like Well, it's because they performed this musical number during the movie that I remember it. Yeah.
Well,
There are certain movies that have really good scores to it, I'm sure.
Yeah.
I just would never know that without researching it, right?
Oh, okay.
Like, yeah.
Like, as one example that someone might use is the Duel of Fates in episode 1 is like a widely famous piece of music because it's so like epic and exciting. But also, you know, there's a lot of music in that movie people probably wouldn't initially recognize the movie. All right, so this week I'm going first and Parker's going last.
For the second time ever.
Second time. All right.
Wilds count as 2.
Going first is weird because you really want to pick ones that other people are going to steal from you.
Oh, I know. Intimately, from my extensive experience.
My number of 6 will never be stolen. Guaranteed.
I'm going to do Jurassic Park.
That was on my list as well. Super strong choice.
Yeah, I mean, the like main theme is so famous, it's hard to do. Yeah. Hard to not say it. All right, so next up we're going to have Jeremy.
Also, there are whole scenes in that movie that are functionally narrated by the music.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's just people staring in the distance, and there's music.
Oh, brother, where art thou?
God damn it! That was my number 1 choice.
Oops.
Oh,
You done?
That's the
Yeah, I'm
first
going to
time.
have to look up how to spell this garbage.
that's the first time anyone's ever taken my number 1 choice. Oh man.
Really? You've had your
Turnip
first
to a
pick this whole
horny
time,
toad.
and you only won twice.
Oh yeah, I always am throwing this hard. I am.
Parker's over here like Deuce Bigalow 3 can't be stopped.
I'm not trying to win. I'm trying to pick, and
I'm trying to win by picking my favorites and being right.
I listen to this soundtrack probably once a month. I had it on loop the other day. My kids love the soundtrack. They just know it in my car all the time.
Wow. Okay.
Such a fantastic soundtrack.
Aaron, you're up next.
I don't know if I've done this before or not. If I haven't, it's Star Wars.
The original?
Yes. Just the opening credit scene.
Someone want to fact check that? I think you've done Empire. I don't think you did New Hope.
No, I've done New Hope. I think I'm the only one who's done New Hope.
Great. I'll do New Hope. It's the same in all of them, though.
Yep. Parker, back-to-back picks.
I'm going to do probably my favorite score is Pirates of the Caribbean. I love that score.
He's a pirate.
Yeah. He's
song.
the best Pirates he's ever seen. And I love the first movie. The first movie was amazing.
Was it Curse of the Black Pearl?
Yep. For my second choice, I'm going to do the only score I've ever played myself. I played this score. It's a John Williams score, and it's the Indiana Jones theme. And I'm going to pick the Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade because it's my favorite Indiana Jones. But I've actually played that one myself. I played trumpet in it. Super fun to play. The brass has like the big theme, the melody that of da 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 da. So it's super fun to play that, and it is amazing.
Okay, Aaron, your second pick.
We're gonna go Top Gun.
Great choice.
Danger Zone.
Yeah.
Caspian Sea.
All right. Is that your guess, or are you just naming a song?
No, it's at the beginning where it does the
Oh.
Caspian Sea. Blah, 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 blah. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I've never seen Top Gun, so.
You son of a bitch.
God, I'm about to slap you off this cast. Jesus Christ.
I've seen the new one. I like the new one.
Oh, it makes me so upset.
No, that's the problem. Is like I'm actually very certain if I go back and watch the original, I'm not going to like it. That's actually why I keep not watching it.
I actually think you would be fine. I mean, if you're cool
like
with watching,
no, because no, a lot of those movies are like super nostalgia based, and every time I go back and watch one of them, they just don't hold up.
I mean, it's a Navy propaganda movie, but it is good.
Sure, like I like the movie Battleship. Like I like like military propaganda if the movie's entertaining.
The movie is entertaining. I think you would like it.
Okay. Ooh, we should take bets on which movies I would like. That would be fun. Okay. So Jeremy, your second pick.
Pulp Fiction.
I'm going to go ahead and say you've already
Whoa.
done Pulp Fiction for sure.
Yeah, someone has.
I know
have
I've
not.
done it.
So just go to the Infamous Content channel and go to the search feature and just
Uh-huh.
type in Pulp Fiction. It'll show you every post that somebody's typed that. And if it's in one of our contents, then check it.
I'm not checking
Okay.
anything. I'll just choose Reservoir Dogs instead. Do that.
No, that's
Okay,
fine.
so somebody picked for crime movies Reservoir Dogs and Pulp Fiction, along with
Was
the
not
usual
me.
suspects.
That was not me. Because I didn't
Aaron?
check Usual Suspects.
What's that?
Was that Aaron? Aaron, did you
That
pick
had to
Pulp
be
Fiction,
Aaron.
Reservoir Dogs, and the usual suspects for crime movies?
Probably.
Okay, so
Okay.
we're good. Pulp Fiction works. Don't worry, I'm not taking either of
Somebody
those,
else
so it
did
doesn't
Pulp
matter.
Fiction for Samuel L. Jackson movies, Pulp Fiction,
That was probably
Kingsman,
me.
Incredibles.
That was me.
Okay. Then that's it. Yep. He's
No, it's
good.
fine. We're moving on. All right,
I'm over it.
so he's got Pulp Fiction. It's on him. So my final two picks, I'm going to go with easy pick that I'm glad made it back to me, The Two Towers.
Mm.
Mhm.
You have Down from the Hills. Oh, it's so good. All of the Helm's Deep battle music is
Yeah.
also super, super great.
The songs in Elvish are all really
Yeah.
awesome.
Mhm. There are so many good choices left that I'm actually terrified. This actually has a really deep pool. See, I've done two orchestral ones, and now I want to do a not orchestral one.
Hmm.
I actually can't choose the movie I would choose. Let me think, because I'm only thinking about the music, not the movie.
No, Blood of Heroes was my pick earlier. You can go with that
Yeah,
one.
that's right. No. I actually almost would have chose Talladega Nights because it actually has a great track. I'm sorry, I'm really bad at soundtracks. I don't normally listen. Fuck it. Let me double check. I haven't said this before. I'm gonna get roasted for this. Waterworld.
Jesus Christ.
It's actually a really good track.
Okay.
It's actually a really good movie.
I actually really like the movie as well. It's I only know the track is good because a friend of mine had it and he listened to it just on repeat in his car. And I was just like, this is actually pretty good. He's like, yeah, it's the Waterworld soundtrack. I'm like, it's the what? And so it's probably the only soundtrack I've ever listened to as god damn it. I want to change my pick. It's not too late. Guardians 1.
I couldn't pick Guardians because I'd already chosen it before.
Yeah, I know. That's why I was like, wait, how did that not get picked? And then I remembered.
I have all the Guardians soundtracks. I listen to them constantly.
You know why? I almost said it's an awesome playlist.
Mhm.
It fucking hit me. It's like, how did I forget that? Okay. All right, moving on. Jeremy, final pick.
The Big Lebowski.
Ooh, that's a fun one.
Yeah,
Have you
there's
not
some
said Lebowski?
wonderful. That's
I
another
don't
one
know.
where the music narrates so many scenes, and it's so good.
Mhm.
Hmm.
Man, I just hate I've just had a really bad day, and I hate the fucking Eagles.
Yep. Get the fuck out of my cab.
All right, Aaron, final pick.
I want to pick Pure Country, but I won't.
It's probably a good choice.
I'm gonna leave that for Parker.
What?
The movie Pure Country.
Okay.
Have you not seen that?
No.
Weirdly.
It is basically George Strait playing George Strait.
Oh. He's literally playing himself straight. That's pretty cool.
No, he is playing He's playing someone who can sing. It's not a bad movie if you like, sappy country shit. But he does sing a lot in it, so it works out. I'm going to take Jaws.
Mm. I don't know if anybody would ever listen to the Jaws soundtrack just as like a casual experience, but it has an amazing soundtrack for like just how good the music is. All right, final pick, Parker.
I only have one on my list left. You better pick it.
Is it Pure Country?
No. Well,
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
there's two on my list left.
I don't think any of you guys are gonna pick this one. Maybe Jeremy will
Well, don't worry.
recognize it.
No one can steal it. It's too late.
I know. Well, I I would just pick Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 because I have that as well, and I love it, and I listen to it all the time.
But it's not as good as 1.
It's not, and I'm actually going to go with one that was really hard to collect the soundtrack for it because of how it was produced, and it's Luca, the Disney Pixar movie Luca.
How do you spell that?
Luca. And the reason why is it's a fantasy story set in 1950s and 60s Italy. And it's the first one Disney Pixar movie that I know of, besides like the old ones like Fantasia, that uses non-original songs in it. So they just took pop songs from from Italy, Italian music and folk pop stuff from the 30s, 40s, 50s, and 60s, and they just put it in the film, and they just kind of stuck it in. And and as soon as you see it happen, you're like, whoa, is this just a regular song in a Disney film? That's never happened. It doesn't happen. And it creates a really interesting feel to the movie. The problem with it is, if there is a problem with it, is that if you type in Luca soundtrack, you just get the instrumental orchestral stuff they made for some of the action sequences.
Yeah.
And so if you want to find out those songs from the movie, you actually have to go track them down individually, which is what I did. So I have a playlist on my phone, which is called Luca Soundtrack. It's just all the awesome Italian music.
And there's probably no point in them making a playlist or a soundtrack for it because they'd just be paying the royalties on all the songs they included. So.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's just, they just didn't do that. But I listen to now, like, pop and some folk 50s and 60s Italian music. It's a ton of fun to drive and like ride your bike, and just it's wonderful. So Luca,
cool.
I'm losing this because I don't think anybody's going to pick Luca, but I have to go.
Is going to
have to go with it. Yeah, Oh Brother Where Art Thou should win by itself.
Yeah.
Oh my god, it's only like. If the movie is a B, the soundtrack is a fucking A+. Like,
the movie's not a B, though. The movie's a B.
It's not. It's excellent. I mean, I love everything they do, but
yeah. I listened to the soundtrack so much. Did you know, for example, that if you buy the soundtrack, there's like 50 songs on it, and they have all the songs that you hear in the movie, and then they just have the same songs produced by just other artists. And they all are amazing. They're all amazing. And you're just like, I can't believe I want to hear this, folk sort of rock song again, but I do, sung by a woman this time instead of a man.
Yeah, I owned that soundtrack too. Yeah. You want okay? So honorable mentions. Oh my god, I lost the name of it because I have Alzheimer's.
Rough.
I know. But go ahead. What are your honorable mentions? I'll think of it.
It's Flubber, isn't it? Flubber?
Is
that?
I like me some Flubber.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Iron Man 2 was on my short list.
That's good.
007.
Oh, Mystery Men. Dude, that has such a good fucking soundtrack.
I don't think I've ever checked what the soundtrack was. I was too young when I watched it to keep track of the songs.
Oh man, if you had them now, if you had that soundtrack now, you would listen to it.
I'm pulling it up.
So good.
My favorite soundtrack to be reused for comedic purposes, and I love the soundtrack. The problem is I don't like the movie that much, is the original Superman. But anytime anyone sets the original Superman soundtrack over something else derpy, I just laugh till I cry. Because it's just so wonderful. That dun, 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 is such a huge build. And I don't think I ever laughed so much at a television show than the episode of Seinfeld, the Superman episode of Seinfeld. Those you don't know, I think it's called The Race. But at the very end of it, they just play that soundtrack over Jerry Seinfeld running a race down a street. My God, it's just so amazing.
According to this, there's only 5 songs on the official Mystery Men soundtrack. It is All Star by Smash Mouth, which is the selling track, obviously.
There was a whole
Sometimes,
CD. I don't know about that, but I had the whole CD.
Indigo, Disco Inferno, and Night Fever by the Bee Gees. I don't know if this is real or not.
I would say it has its own. I had a whole CD. I used to buy soundtracks all the time because that was a good way to get good collections.
Yeah, I agree with that. Oh, here we go. This says there's like 36 songs on this one.
That sounds more right. Like it had a lot.
Okay. Wow. 38 songs, hour and 30 minutes. No, there's no way that was all in the movie, but okay, interesting. Oh yeah, here's all the little clips that are like part of the movie, and then there's like the actual songs. It looks like later. Okay.
You know what about soundtracks that like opened me up to whole genres of musics at a time in my life? Because I think they came out like right when I was like 18 or 19, and I was like, you know, what that classic line, you know, you don't listen to music till you turn 18 or 19, and all of a sudden you listen to music for the first time. You've heard music, but you don't listen to it until you reach a certain age. And it was Juno, the movie Juno.
Oh, so good.
Has an awesome soundtrack, and the movie Garden State.
Garden State soundtrack is one that I used to listen to all the time.
Yeah. Those two movies came out at a time that I was like, oh my gosh, I have to know what this kind of music is. I've never heard this kind of music before. And I started listening to those songs a lot.
When I was doing painting and my college stuff, like my graduate stuff that I did, I had all these soundtracks, and some motherfucker stole my CD book and took all my songs. That was before you had it like all like on your phone. Oh man. And yep, Garden State I've bought twice because the fucker stole it.
Cool.
And that's a great movie, by the way, Garden State.
Garden State is a wonderful movie. My wife hates that movie.
Are you serious?
And it's because she doesn't like any movies that don't have like a really positive conclusion, and that movie just kind of ends.
Dude.
Like nothing really good or bad happens. It just kind of ends with them all slightly emotionally more developed than they were before, but that's about it. And she can't stand that kind of resolution.
When they go in the room, when he goes into the therapist's office and he's got all those like things on his wall, like certificates and stuff, and he has so many that he has several of them stapled to the ceiling.
Yeah. Yeah.
Dude, it's so fucking awesome.
The movie is funny. Like the movie is a great movie.
Oh, it's so good. Yeah.
It's very understated and very quiet, which is great to listen to.
All right, Aaron needs to go to bed. Let's go.
Yeah, I can tell he's falling asleep. All right. Goodbye, everyone. Goodbye.
Bye.
Congratulations, Aaron.